Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Lore Podcast. It's me, Alex, Goblin Rancher, with my boy Andrew, Coonlord. And today we're going to be talking about myths. And we both went into this one to talk about myths, and as Andrew knows this, but we both looked into myths, and it's a lot harder to find myths with depth than I would have thought. Like, you know,
most of them are just one-liners.
Yeah, it's usually like, the mouth has more than five taste buds, or I don't remember what the other ones are.
Lobsters poop out of their mouths or something.
Is that
like
one?
that.
There's a bunch of stupid stuff like that, and there wasn't much with many myths with very much depth. So the theme was myths, but we kind of ended up with kind of myth-like. I mean, these things are kind of myths, but they're also just kind of interesting topics to talk about. So it might not be as conformed to the myth topic as you might be expecting. So be prepared for that. Is there anything else? One is that we are recording with a different. We're recording with Audacity instead of straight through OBS to try and get better quality. So we might end up with some issues that we have to kind of work out some learning kinks along the way.
So if you hear some shitty shit, just keep listening.
This should be better, but just in case, just keep in mind that,
let us know in the comments.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with it. So the first myth that I covered, the first thing that I looked into was the Twinkie defense. I was on some, commonly believed misconceptions or whatever. And so the Twinkie defense starts out, Dan White, who was a former police officer and firefighter and was the city district supervisor at the time. So this guy, who kind of works for the city and whatever, he assassinated the mayor, George Moscone, and the supervisor, Harvey Milk. Why? I don't know, actually. That wasn't the point of this topic.
Damn you, Alex.
So he assassinates the mayor and the supervisor. During the trial, psychiatrist Martin Blinder testified that White was depressed at the time and pointed towards the fact that he quit his job, shunned his wife, and stopped caring about his looks. So I guess he looked kind of disheveled, maybe dirty clothes. Don't know exactly, but he didn't look so great. And
maybe he was on drugs.
Or on drugs. Well, I guess they didn't bring up drugs in the thing, so maybe he wasn't.
Of course not. It's because it was drugs.
And eventually, the other thing they brought up was that he was previously a health food advocate, and he had turned to junk food, and their example was Coca-Cola. So I guess he started eating junk food, Little Debbie's, maybe Twinkies, whatever.
All
their
right,
only example was Coca-Cola. And so the defense that they gave was that because they said that he was depressed because he quit his job, he shunned his wife, he stopped caring about looks, he started eating junk food. And so they said he was depressed and that his mental capacity was diminished because he was depressed and was doing all these things. And so in a roundabout way, they did blame him being depressed, and their evidence was that he ate junk food. And eventually a reporter reported on it, and they called it the Twinkie defense. And they were saying that, he's not guilty for the murders because he's eating Twinkies, which there's no proof that they said anything about Twinkies during the trial. But that was kind of like a little joke that a reporter made, and it caught on. And the Twinkie defense caught on, and people believed that the lawyers stated Twinkies as the reason for the murders, which is the myth and the falsehood in itself, is that Twinkies weren't in the court battle. It was just kind of a impromptu kind of thing that a reporter thought up, which it stemmed from part of the defense being about junk food. But that was kind of a myth. I thought it was an interesting story. It's not too much like it's not. I hadn't heard of the Twinkie defense, so I'm sure some of you out there probably haven't heard of it either. But it is a myth that some people believe in certain circles. So I thought I'd bring it up to you guys as a myth.
Yeah, no, that's a good one because, I mean, a myth is basically. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and define a myth, but to me, a myth is something that is either easily explained or something that a lot of people believe that they don't really know the basis of, like how it was, I guess, how that myth was founded.
And I would agree that it is a myth. So, but it's not necessarily a myth when you think about, we're going to talk about myths. You probably didn't see me coming up with the Twinkie defense.
it's like we should name this myths and misconceptions, because that one seems like it's definitely a misconception. You know, people saw this article where somebody said, oh, you know, maybe it didn't even have to be like that lingo. It could have just been like, oh, maybe he was eating too many Twinkies, and they were like,
yeah. And here's the thing, Andrew, it was on a list.
He ate too many Twinkies.
It was on a list of common misconceptions, which I think are very similar to myths. So you are right. It's literally a misconception, and that can kind of be, it's kind of synonymous with myth. You know, I mean, there's not a big difference. There's a lot of overlap in those two things. Myth's more supernatural, but at least to me, regardless. So what's yours, Andrew? Let's go for it.
I did mine on fan death. Imagine you go to sleep with your windows shut. Your AC is off because it's broken somehow. And you decide, hey, it's hot in here and I need a little fan-orino to get me back to the cooler climate. So you turn that fan on and plop back into bed, realizing death awaits you. Or not? That was my cute little intro I made.
I like it. I like it.
So this one dates back to the 20s and 30s. It was essentially these articles warning of risks of nausea and asphyxiation and even facial paralysis, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But essentially, fan death is the belief by South Koreans, not all South Koreans, but some, that if you are in a room with the windows closed and the door shut and you turn on a fan, that fan will somehow suck out all of the air and kill you. A lot of people, essentially what this is them not being able to explain people's deaths and just attributing it to that. So these are some of the proposed causes by people that think that it is real. So hyperthermia, which is heat stress. They believe that air movement increases sweat evaporation, which cools your body. That's a fact. But in extreme heat, when the air blown in is warmer than the body's temperature, it can increase the heat stress on your body.
Okay.
Potentially speeding the onset of heat exhaustion and other detrimental conditions. The EPA discourages people from using fans in closed rooms without ventilation when it's hotter than like 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
I mean, that's just, you really shouldn't use a fan if you're just blowing hot air all over your body. You're crazy if that's what you're using your fan for. But basically, they think that the air is like, I guess when you blow hot air from outside and it's hotter into the room, it'll cause heat exhaustion and you'll die from that. And that's one of the
but that would have to be an open door then, right?
Yeah. Well, essentially hyperthermia, they're just stating if
I get that's
hot air is blowing in from anywhere. So if the room is hot, if you're blowing hot air from the outside inside and you don't have any ventilation.
And that can be a real thing? Or is that a myth?
Well, yeah, but not really, unless you're like in a hot room for like a really long time or it's like some extreme heat.
I get that. But the thing was that I thought most South Koreans believed that it was if the door was closed and the windows were closed.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That one's my favorite one. So there's like 3 different common misconceptions about it, or I should say causes, not
causes for the misconception.
So one of the other ones is hypothermia. It's when your body temperature lowers significantly and your body can't regulate its own temperature. So people think that this is true. Your metabolic process slows during the night, but people think that it slows so much that you become super sensitive to the temperature and become like super prone to hypothermia, which is true in normal circumstances, but not if you're just laying in your room on your bed
With the fan
unless
on.
it's like ridiculously cold outside or something. So people also they think that the fans will lower the temperature in your room and cause you to get hypothermia. And I found a lot of stuff saying about how wrong this was, because fans do not actually alter the temperature of your room
they just
at all.
Push the air or whatever. Wouldn't that be nice if fans made your room colder?
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. I would never need an AC ever again. I would just buy a shitload of fans and put them all in my room. But so essentially, if anything, the fan would increase the temperature from the heat of the motor and the air being sucked through the fan, pulling the heat from the motor. So if anything, it would make your room hotter.
Right.
So the only way that, the way that fans work is essentially it
Do you have a fan degree? Are you allowed to be talking about this subject like this? Do you have a PhD in fans? How do I know if I can trust you and not the South Koreans?
The reason that fans make you feel colder is because it allows your body to dissipate the heat better, because the heat's not just sitting around your body. There's the convection from the air around you,
right?
Is, making you feel colder. Right. That one's a big fucking no. Pardon my language. Right. Hypothermia, not a reason.
It's a kids podcast, Andrew. How could you? It's a Christian podcast.
Welcome to the deep lore of the Bible.
There probably is a deep lore Bible podcast already. Do we need to start filing for trademarks?
Hey guys, we're gonna go deeper into Matthew 11:28.
We should move on, probably.
So the next one and the last one, and also my favorite one, is asphyxiation.
I'm ready. This is the one that I always hear about. That's like the weirdest one, like how you would get strangled by air or whatever you want to consider.
So
it.
It is believed. It is believed that it may cause the displacement of oxygen and the. Okay, so I should start over. Essentially, when you breathe in air, you take in oxygen and carbon dioxide, and when you breathe out, you release more carbon dioxide than you do oxygen.
Right.
So they think that having a fan in your room will cause you to, so you'll breathe and intake oxygen and exhale all of the carbon dioxide, and they believe that it causes like a gradual decrease in oxygen of the room and an increase in the dioxide gas, and it doesn't make any sense because you're in a completely closed room, or it would only make sense if you were in a completely closed room, because you have oxygen coming from outside sources or whatever. Right. But a fan is just blowing that air around. It's not causing any of that air.
It's not sucking the oxygen out.
It's not sucking the oxygen out of the room. They're essentially in a completely 100% closed, like concrete room. Yeah, totally possible that you'll breathe need the fan all of the oxygen. To happen,
right?
What?
And the fan wouldn't contribute to that. Whether the fan was there or not, the completely closed room would have the same.
Yeah, unless it was like some crazy big fan that was vacuuming the oxygen out, then it would make sense. But I mean, it's essentially the same in any scenario if you're stuck in a box without any sort of airflow. Right. You're going to die because your body's going to consume all the oxygen and only have carbon dioxide left. Yeah. But entering a fan into that equation,
it doesn't change anything.
Does nothing.
Yeah.
One funny thing I thought was I read this thing from the Korea Consumer Protection Board, which is a South Korean government-funded public agency. They issued a safety alert in 2006 warning that asphyxiation from electric fans and air conditioners was among South Korea's most common summer accidents or injuries.
What?
According to data that they had collected.
So they literally published that in 2006.
That was published by human peoples.
It's no wonder it's so. And this is what I've heard, and we don't have journalists in Korea asking or taking polls, but I've heard that this is fairly commonly believed. I don't know if I want to say like 50%, but like a big chunk of people believe that compared to what you'd expect for most myths. You know, I mean, there's only there's only so many people who believe walking under a ladder is bad luck.
Well, I mean, if you have, you know, like your government.
Like that's what I was saying. If these people are saying that, that's probably why so many people believe it. They're like, what? You know?
Right. And that's, I think that's one of the big reasons that people do believe that one. But, so here's an excerpt from the South Korean government, and another one of these, like warning things. If bodies are exposed to electric fans or air conditioners for too long, it causes the bodies to lose water and causes hypothermia. If directly in contact with air from a fan, this could lead to death from an increase of carbon dioxide saturation concentration and decrease of oxygen concentration. Like what we talked about where the fan sucks all the oxygen out of the room and you only have carbon dioxide left over. They say the risks are high for elderly and patients with respiratory problems. From 2003 to 2005, a total of 20 cases were reported through the CISS, I'm not sure what that is, involving asphyxiations caused by leaving electric fans and air conditioners on while sleeping. To prevent asphyxiation, timers should be set, wind direction should be rotated, and doors should be left open. And that's one of the other things is that a lot of fans in South Korea are on timers.
Yep.
And I've heard from people that, you know, pretty much any fan that you buy has a timer on it.
Yeah, and that's the reason that I perceived that it's more widespread in South Korea, because if people believe, you know, you walk under a ladder, it's bad luck, no one's building ladders that you can't walk under. But in South Korea, they believe, you know, fan death, and people are literally building fans with timers on it for those people. So it's got to be like a decent population that's...
Honestly, that's hilarious to me.
It is really funny when you look from the outside.
Yeah, and something like that can still be, you know, going on to this day. It's 2017.
And that's one of the things that is funny is that when you grow up in somewhere like South Korea and you've heard that fans kill you and suck the oxygen out of your room all your life, most people don't even second guess that and go, wait, what? They're just like, oh, that's how it is, you know?
Yeah,
like
you hear that in America and you're like, what are you smoking?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Here's a funny anecdote I can add to that, is that I bought an AC unit because my room gets really hot. My PC's like super hot and I usually have the door closed for sound reasons and a ton of stuff. And so my room is really hot, so I bought an AC to use on my window. And when I buy something like an AC or whatever, they usually have these big books and manuals, and I'm like, let me look through this and see if there's anything I need to know that I wouldn't know. You know, if there's a way that do I need to clean something out? Is there like, you know, from the water, from the condensation, because it's got a dehumidifier mode? Whatever. So I was going through the book, and I usually when I buy something big like that, I read through the manual or whatever and make sure there's not something I don't know about where I'm going to blow myself up. And in there, somewhere written in there, it said something like, do not use this air conditioner in a closed room with a human inside or something. And I'm like exactly like the fan thing, like don't use the AC in a closed room. I mean, this literally advertised to be used for like server rooms and stuff, and like
maybe they meant like in a completely closed room. Like, I mean, I could see that happen. Like if you were in like a super closed off room with like
without any
seals on all the doors.
Yeah, because then it could like, because it usually, I'm trying to think, it sucks from outside. And because it's got like a little pipe, a little whatever you want to call it, a pipe that comes from outside and blows cold air in. So I guess it sucks air from outside, cools it, and shoots it out the front, I'm thinking. Or does it shoot the warm air out? I don't remember. I don't know exactly how it works. Regardless, if it goes in or out. I
don't know how ACs work. I just realized.
Either way, this is a portable AC, by the way. Either way, if it sucks the air in from the outside to cool it, or if it sends the hot air out as exhaust, I think it does send the hot air out as exhaust. Then you're creating negative pressure in the room. And like you said, if it's fully sealed, it might cause some kind of damage. I don't know what would happen. Or it just wouldn't function correctly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's probably why it's written in there. But I just remember reading that and I'm like...
Yeah, that is pretty bizarre
why can't I use
to
this
see
in
that.
a closed room? So... And I thought at the time, I didn't even think about the fact that it could be if it's completely sealed room. At the time, I thought, oh, maybe this is just in there for the Koreans. So, I don't know. Because I looked it up and I was like, if this is real and this is dangerous, someone's got to have talked about having an AC in a closed room before and nothing. So
it makes you wonder, do they have, is there like stuff on vacuum cleaners there where it's like, don't vacuum for too long or else you'll suck up all the air and you'll die?
Well, I mean, like you say, if there's negative pressure with the air conditioner, you could potentially damage the door or something if the air conditioner was strong enough. With a vacuum, I mean, the vacuum's like shooting out into the same room, so it potentially wouldn't have the same problem.
It was a joke.
I know it was a joke, but I mean, we're talking about something that literally had that message on there. And then, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if...
That would be hilarious if you were, if you had to vacuum something and then you kept having to turn it back on because the timer was turning it off.
Can you imagine like a 2-minute timer vacuum? Vacuuming's already annoying enough.
I agree. So that's pretty much all I had for
that's
fan death. That's fan death.
Okay, so I will go on with mine. I have 3, Andrew has 2. One of mine is very short, so Andrew's going to be jumping into his next one soon. When I talked to Andrew, he said that he didn't really go down the myth path as much as I did because it was so hard to find. And I still tried to go down the myth path, and so I ended up with one that's very short, but just kind of a misconception that I thought it would fit in the myth podcast. So the thing is that China is not the biggest consumer of rhino horns. You know that myth that Chinese people eat rhino horns or whatever they do. And so the Vietnamese are actually the largest consumer of rhino horns. Supposedly, I don't know. Maybe I should have fact-checked this more, but that's what it said. And this is very short, so I don't know. And the thing that was the bigger myth to me that I wanted to dispel was that it is not consumed as an aphrodisiac, but it is usually prescribed for fevers and convulsions. So I've always heard that people use rhino horn to like make their dick hard or whatever, however you want to phrase that, as like a sex enhancing thing.
Yeah, for real though. That's one thing. Like I've heard that thousands of times.
Yes.
So that's super interesting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, and that's basically the whole thing. But when I was looking at misconceptions, I was like, that's kind of one I would like to talk about because I believed that. I believe China was using it as an aphrodisiac, but no, it's apparently Vietnamese people using it, and they're not usually using it as a...
There very well may be people that do believe
I'm sure some
that
people use it for that reason.
Powers, but yeah, it's that weird thing where somebody hears that and they're like, "Oh, that's all they're using it for."
Just
but,
like the Twinkie defense,
they might
it's
think
one person hears something and then they spread it out because it's a cool little soundbite that's not true.
Right. It sounds a lot better than, "Hey, these guys are taking rhino horns because they don't want to take fucking Tylenol and aspirin."
And they don't know any better. I mean, doctors sometimes prescribe it, so it's not even like they're like, I don't want Tylenol, I want the rhino horn. So usually the doctor's like, yeah, the rhino horn would be great for you right now with my PhD that I got. I know all about rhino horns.
Yeah, it's sad because, I mean, not too long ago, relative in human...
this is going to be good. I like the way you're describing this. Relative in human time.
Well, I was going to say, relative in human time, like in terms of health, people were still thought that, you're like the body worked with humors, which like, you didn't want bad humors. We should do that
in a podcast and talk about, because
I
don't know too much about
We could do a whole podcast on failed medicine.
I know about its existence, but I don't know. Why my mic is peaking a lot and I keep turning the gain down.
It would be good to do one on like failed medicine or medicine that's outdated. I mean, obviously people were being prescribed, housewives were being prescribed methamphetamines to keep them, proper and
for diets.
well, for their diets, and also because a lot of the time, like I've seen ads that said like
well, Andrew, you know that in relative and human time, even I was prescribed amphetamines for my ADHD, not 10 years ago.
I was as well, but I mean, they were prescribing amphetamines for the housewife, for just to, is your wife not cooking you dinner anymore? Is she not cleaning? Well, guess
I can
what?
tell you
we
one
have the
thing,
miracle
Andrew.
cure.
I can say one thing. If you're not cooking, if the housewife is having problems cooking dinner, putting them on methamphetamine is not going to make them want to cook dinner any more than they already didn't want to.
They're not going to cook dinner. They're going to give you like some abomination of like Cheetos mixed with like sauerkraut or something.
Or not even.
Or go crazy.
They're not going to do anything with food at all. When I took Adderall, and one time I took Ritalin, food is the last thing I even want to think about all day, because you can tell that you can feel hungry. Maybe it's different for different people, but I already have a small appetite. I can feel that I'm hungry. Like I'm like, oh, I should eat. But the rest of my body's like, no. Stay away from that food. No. We don't want any of that right now.
See, for me, it was never that I could that I felt like I couldn't eat or anything. It was always just like I totally forgot. Like I would be like so obsessed with doing something else that I'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't even eat today.
And that's the big one. I would forget a lot. But a lot of the times when it would be like, when I took it at school, it would be like, we'd go out for lunch and we're going out to eat, and I'd eat like 4 bites and I'd be like, yeah, that's about as much as I can do right now. Like, yeah, you just have no appetite. Your body's not driving you to eat. And it's really bizarre, because you're supposed to eat, but your body's just like, nah, fam, we good. We don't need that shit. Let's go do something productive.
Yeah. When I was a kid, they used to give me, because like I wouldn't eat at all. They used to give me like a half dose of Ritalin in the morning, and then I would go to school, however long until lunch, and then I would eat lunch, and then they would give me like the other half right after.
That's the ideal way to do it for me, would be to eat, take the Adderall, do my stuff. And I wish what I could have done is something like that, where I took like, instead of a 20 milligram in the morning, I would do like a 10 milligram. And I've heard now that instant release is really hard to get. Apparently that was the one that was abused more than the extended release. I don't know too much about that, but I was hoping.
Well, the extended release has the little balls in it usually.
Yeah, no, it does. I think it always does.
The IR is tablet.
Right, it's the tablet. I'm just confused about.
You can crush it up and do fun stuff with it.
Right, but I know everyone in my high school, and maybe they did it wrong, and maybe this wasn't very effective, but I mean, they crushed up the extended release, the little balls, just as and it seemed to work for everyone that way just as well. So I don't know why. Like, I've heard things about, there's more filler or whatever, but it's like, you're talking about someone who's crushing up and snorting a prescription drug. I don't think people care that much about filler. So
yeah, I'm not too 100% sure.
I don't know what the legality and how hard it is to get instant release. But I was thinking, when I go to college, if I need Adderall for certain classes, if I really can't focus, because I did fine in school until I hit chemistry, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna need something for this. And I went from from an F the first quarter to a B, and it ended up averaging to like a C, and I was doing fine. So it's like, in certain classes, I can't function without that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that it's possible for me to get an instant release, because I don't want to have to take an extended release and be hyped up all day. Like, I don't like to be on amphetamines. That's one of those things, like, they're prescribing it for housewives or whatever back then. It's like, like, I wouldn't want to be on that all the time. It's not.
There was things that I liked about it and things that I didn't like about it.
Yeah, I mean, you could be super productive. Yeah.
I love the ability to complete a task 100%.
But let's be honest, most of the time you completed a completely irrelevant task 100%.
That's literally what I was about to say, but sometimes the tasks that I completed were not necessarily all that relevant.
I remember one time I had this coffee table or whatever in the middle of my room, and it was like kind of grimy and dirty, because I had like people at my house all the time, and like they'd put their feet on the table and whatever, and I was like, I gotta clean this thing, it's kind of gross. And I spent like hours just like cleaning out all the little crevices of the coffee table and doing all this. And then I'm like, hang on, I just spent 2 hours cleaning this coffee table and my room's not even clean. My coffee table looks great, but my room's still dirty. It's just like really weird priorities.
like I had like a movie collection like on my computer, and they were all just like thrown into one random folder. And I was supposed to be doing like a test, or sorry, not a test, like an essay.
Right.
And instead of doing the essay, I had literally organized like the entire movie collection alphabetically and like set them all into folders of genre.
Yeah.
So they were alphabetical in like each genre folder.
Right.
And like I just like sat back and looked at it and was like, wow, I didn't get anything done.
Yeah, and here's the thing. That kind of like irrelevant productivity, I feel like it's like leached off into my real life still now, because just yesterday I was like, I feel like changing my desktop. And I was like, I spent like 2 hours looking for desktop backgrounds that matched, that looked good, which it was partially problematic because I have two 1080p or 1920 by 1080s and one 1440, and I need to get like, I want something that looks good on all of them. So I spent like 2 hours doing that, and I'm already like, I'm wasting my time, but I still want to do this anyway. And then I was like, now the color of my backgrounds has changed. I need to change all of my rain meter settings and stuff, which has like, my graphs for my CPU temp and like whatever. And then I spent like another hour or two trying to find the right weather thing that showed me the weather. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, I'm like, all right, I got that done. And I'm like, all I did was change 3 backgrounds and add a weather thing to my rain meter. And that took all day, like 8 hours. Like I didn't do anything useful yesterday at all.
Just,
and yet I still feel
for a
good.
long time.
No, I will. My last desktop background and setup lasted me since I built this computer like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So
not bad.
It should last a long time, but it's still like
frequently.
What's that?
So I changed my background so frequently.
I would if I only had 2 monitors where I could match. Okay, if I had 2 1440p monitors or something that's easier, but trying to combine 2 1080s and 1440, and that's the thing. I'm super picky about everything, especially my background. Like, I love the standard background. It's like a mountain or like a beach or an island. You know what I mean? Those standard ones. I like nature shots like that, but I'm like, there's like 4 billion photos I could pick of any beach. You know what I mean? Like, I want to do something different. So, not that my desktop is very crazy.
No, mine,
now.
I'm super not picky. None of my monitors really match all that well. And then the background on my computer is just a snapshot of the foam that's behind my computer.
Yeah, no, I don't. Previously, I wasn't super picky about it either. I don't like that my mic is peaking so much. I wonder if I'm having trouble with the cord. Maybe it's making a weird sound.
The cord.
Either way, my voice is just going to keep getting quieter, and I'm still going to peak, I think. I don't know if there's anything I can do about it.
You sound all right to me.
I should, but my gain is going down, and I'm watching my bars get smaller, and yet every once in a while there's a peak, and I'm like,
right.
I don't know what's peaking, if I'm hitting my chair wrong. Regardless. I'm picky, but I'm not like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like my last background was just black and white pictures of trees. That was my theme. So everything was still black and white, and there were still trees, but they didn't really match and flow very well. So
right.
It's not really relevant or interesting to anyone listening to the podcast. So
no, it's all good. They want to know all about.
They want to know all about how I pick
dog.
my backgrounds, because like my backgrounds are just, they're number one, delicious.
We're gonna throw up a picture of his background here.
I will throw a picture of my background at some point in the podcast.
Nope, that's the wrong finger.
We'll put it right here.
Right.
It's gonna be really tiny, and you won't be able to see anything.
Right here.
And we'll put it
in between both of our pictures.
How come my fingers don't? None of my fingers seem to point the way I want. Both these, I was trying to point.
What are you doing with your right hand there?
That way.
That's a good look for you.
I was trying to point. I'm sorry. Let's move on. What do you got for me, Andrew?
I'm gonna go ahead and talk to you about a little bit of spontaneous human combustion. Also commonly known as SHC. So if somebody's like, "Yo, dog, you know where I could see some sweet SHC pics?" Tell them to fuck off.
That sounds like some
disgusting.
kind of like creepy fetish thing. I'm into that SHC, you dig?
I do have pictures to go along with this, so I just want to put a little disclaimer right here. They're
actually, this could
gruesome.
be. I don't know. Depending on how gruesome this is, I don't know if we're gonna link it or if we're gonna show it. We'll see.
That's up to you. They're pretty gross.
We'll figure it out. If they're, we can leave it up to like viewer discretion too. Like if I think they're acceptable, but most people who know that they're queasy won't look. Which, let's be honest, most people look anyway. But if we give them forewarning and whatever, well, let me see them before I judge them. Let's go.
Get a Walmart bag, put another Walmart bag inside of it, and then just hang it around your ears. And if you feel sick, just start puking into it.
Dude,
but don't take your eyes off.
Hospital puke bags. I got them all the time on lock. I just
There
got them ready.
Yeah. Get hospital puke bags like Alex has. Where did you get those?
I had a lot of stomach issues for a couple years, and I just kept coming home with more and more of those bags. I never ended up I puked one time in those 2 years of stomach problems, but I have like tons of those bags because they're always like, oh, you feel nauseous? Here you go. And
send them to me, man.
They've saved me on a drunk night before, so, they're not bad to have around. TMI, I'm sure. Let's go.
So, the first recorded discussion on SHC that I could find was in an article in 1823.
Okay.
It stated that all of the recorded cases at the time had these things in common. The victims were all chronic alcoholics. They were usually elderly females.
Okay.
The body had not burned spontaneously, but some lighted substance had come into contact with it. The hands and feet usually fall off or were detached. And the fire did little damage to the surrounding area or to the building that they were in. The combustion of the body had left a residue of greasy and fetid ashes, very offensive in odor.
Fetid ashes, oh gosh.
And that's how it's spelled, odor.
Odor. Beautiful.
So it's pretty fucking gross, gotta say.
Yeah.
There's I'll just have to show you the pictures, but so these two guys, John Nickel and John F. Fisher, conducted. Actually, I should go back and say, for anybody that doesn't know about this, spontaneous human combustion is literally the alleged thought that your body just goes up in flames randomly, which is pretty unfounded.
Is there any documented video of this? I've heard a lot of medical things where people are saying, it happened, and some people are verifying that supposedly it happened, but no video
Pretty much
yet.
Anything that has the word spontaneous human combustion in it is alleged. There's never been. They've said we think it could be this. We think it could be SHC. But there's never been a recorded case of somebody on video dying from it, or somebody just walking down the street and just.
And that's the thing is I don't think that. I don't think that a random person, I don't think you or I would just tomorrow just start on fire. Like you said, maybe because chronic alcoholics, maybe they have higher, alcohol in their blood and potentially they caught fire somehow. Or, you know what I mean? I could see how it could potentially be something that causes something, but it's not just a diagnosis you have cancer and you also have a high rate of spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you'll see is that most of these cases, from what I found, was that they were all usually sitting, and they were all usually by a fireplace or in their living room. Okay. There have been studies on it. So these guys, Joe Nickel and John F. Fisher, conducted research in 1984, and they looked at 30 historical cases of SHC. Okay. And their report stated that bodies found with alleged SHC were usually near plausible sources for ignition, like candles, lamps, and fireplaces. And there was also a correlation of the victim's drunkenness or inebriation. It doesn't necessarily have to be alcohol.
Spontaneous human combustion, a.k.a. I got drunk and set myself on fire.
Basically. And
I didn't
the
deny
Always
that.
Sunny intro for that one. I got drunk and set myself on fire.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is I knew that your body doesn't like create heat so hot that could start something on fire naturally. So if you do spontaneously combust, it's spontaneously after you touched a candle by doing something. So anyway, continue.
They also said that where destruction was extensive, there was added fuel sources like chairs, comforters, and
That makes
like
sense.
materials of any kind.
Right.
Which leads me to my next trigger word, the wick effect. And if you want to do some research on some disgusting shit, just look up the wick effect and just read about that because it's gross. Basically, the wick effect is it's a blanket term for like anybody that like catches fire and their clothes catch fire, and then the fat that burns off.
Oh, I've heard of that. Once the
basically
fat starts on
absorbs
fire.
into the clothing, and then the clothing essentially becomes like a wick because
the fat
similar
burns
to
for
like
a long
candle.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then that fat will burn other fat, and the fat it just continues. And that's why you see, I mean, even like what we talked about before, the Station nightclub fire, it totally could have been exacerbated by all of the bodies there and all of the fat from their bodies and all of the clothing. Right. That all could have contributed to how hot that fire was and how it burned it down. Right. That's a different story, though. But so they were saying that a lot of these people were found, in chairs that had cloth on them, or, with thick clothing on, like nightgowns, comforters, any fabric, essentially. Since the fires were small because of the wick effect. Right. They were saying that it's similar to a candle in that, if you have a candle burning, right, or let's say even you have like a fire, like a fire pit, and you're all sitting around the fire. I think they said something about it burns like super fast and super hot, or not super fast, but it just burns super hot, and then there's not anything like unless it catches something else that's super close to it, it's just basically going to run its course, right? Because you're sitting in the chair. One thing they said was that your legs would burn off and fall off, so you're still in the chair. Usually the chair probably has like some metal structure,
you're dead
right?
By then, right?
Yeah, you're dead by then. So your legs fall off because they're basically sitting
on
there,
fire, screaming, and your legs fall off.
Yeah, your thighs would essentially burn to your knees, and then your legs would fall, like your knees would fall, and then the fire would go out. So they were saying that was another reason that the fire didn't spread.
Oh,
there was
legs
a lot
would be,
of
fairly normal at that point.
Yeah, there was a lot of.
Can you
basically
imagine finding
grasping
a burned man and his legs are there and unburned?
Yeah, that's seriously what happens, is that they were finding these people with essentially just their legs, and trying to wonder why it didn't spread to the rest of the house, and they're saying the wick effect is the reason that it didn't spread around to the rest of the house.
Right.
Let's see what else I have here. They believe that the objects were not close enough to catch fire, like a campfire, resulting in bizarre scenarios where only the body was burned and like the floor below it and the ceiling above it. There was a study by this lady in 2002, Angie M. Christensen, of the University of Tennessee. She cremated healthy and like bones with osteoporosis, and found that the bone that was, I guess, osteoporosis bone burned like better, which totally plays to the well, I haven't actually gotten into this yet, but essentially if you're fat and like overweight and stuff, you have more of a tendency to spontaneously combust. So that plays into that. I don't know why I didn't put this down farther, but they also found that they The same study found that when human tissue is burned, the resulting flame produces a small amount of heat, indicating that the fire is unlikely to spread from the burning tissue. So that could be another reason why it doesn't spread to the rest of the house. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, so how do these people in their chair start on fire and just sit in their chair and die? Like, how come?
Well, that's what
nobody
we're going
gets
to
up
get
and
into.
runs? Okay, let's hear it.
So some of the possible causes, since usually it's people in poor health or advanced age, it's pretty likely that they died in their sleep and were unable to move, resulting in the body being burned by the fire. So they let's say you have a heart attack.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
you're smoking a
essentially
cig and it falls on your clothes and starts on fire or something.
Yeah, and there's no way for them really to tell if you had a heart attack or not, because you're pretty much, your torso is completely gone.
Yeah, that makes sense. And because it's so rare, it makes sense that it could be people who happen to start on fire after dying. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And another one is cigarettes are usually the first thing that they think of. The improper disposal of cigarettes causes 1 out of 4 fire deaths in the United States.
Improper disposal as in what? Like just putting them out on your desk or something?
Like flicking it out into a field, or throwing it into your trash can, or throwing it onto your desk, whatever it is. Like, let's say I had a cigarette and I just, I put it out on my desk, but there was, a paper on there, and it started burning the paper, and then it caught all my foam on fire, and then, essentially that's what I
get
think.
that. I'm just trying to think, because I know people are dirty about it, but it's like people, you can just have an ashtray on your desk. It's that easy, but.
Yeah, let's say you have a cigarette in your hand, and you're smoking a cigarette, and you just, you're shit-faced, and you pass out, and that cigarette falls into your lap, and then your pants catch on fire, but you've already died from alcohol poisoning or something, heart attack, whatever. So that, and then some fucking asshole suggests ball lightning.
Oh God, we're going back into ball lightning. We should have just done one on ball lightning in general.
I literally put on here, John Abrahamson suggested ball lightning as a cause, but that's horse shit if I have ever heard it.
What is ball lightning again? I remember getting into this where there's some conspiracy and they're like, nah, dude, no, it's not. There's way more to it. Look up ball lightning, and I'm like, ball lightning? What does that have to do with anything?
So they've been able to recreate.
I've seen it in a lab where it zaps around on the floor. Have you seen that video?
Yeah. So people think that balls of lightning could, in fact, materialize or however it gets to you and burn you. I think that's a little horseshit. That's less
I can see it being one case of death per million years, but
I could see it being a thing, but I don't think it killed anybody.
You don't think it's ever killed? I mean, if it can just materialize somewhere, I mean, there could be one person who got electrocuted by a ball lightning.
How many square feet of space is there on the earth? What are the chances that a ball of lightning would just materialize inside of your chest and cause you to burn? That I don't know, to me just sounds like total fucking horseshit.
I don't think those people would be started on fire. They would just be electrocuted like normal. But I mean, I'm not saying that it probably happens all the time. I'm saying that, in the past, however many 10 billion people have lived, and in the next 10 billion, maybe it's happened to someone.
I won't rule it out. I won't rule it out. It just sounds like horseshit.
It's not the cause for spontaneous human combustion. I agree with you 100%.
It's an interesting angle, but I think it's
far too unlikely. I mean,
it's far too unlikely.
If it was that likely that people die from it and spontaneously combust as they do now, it would be more often that there'd be people who just said, yeah, ball lightning just showed up in my closet last night. We need to do something about this. You know what I mean? Nobody talks about ball lightning just showing up.
Well, it's totally Occam's razor, what's more likely to happen? You drop a cigarette into your lap and have a heart attack and die, or a ball of lightning appears inside of your asshole
dude,
and you
burn.
The
ball of lightning, trust me.
Yeah.
It's like the conspiracy stuff where it's just like...
So I just... Everything under that, under the ball lightning category, I just put horse shit. But I do have some notable examples of
Well, here,
of this
I
happening.
wanted to ask you when you were talking about dropping a cigarette and starting on fire. Did you ever see the video of that guy on stream dropped his cigarette and started his house on fire?
Yes, I have seen that.
Crazy.
It happens, man. People don't realize it. Like, you've got carpet all
literally
around
just,
you.
like,
You've
ashes.
got foam.
He doesn't even smoke the cigarette. It just hangs out of his mouth, and then he like ashes it one time into the wrong spot, and he's just got all these paper and cardboards, and he's just.
Yeah. I mean, if you got pizza
crazy.
boxes sitting around and it catches a pizza box on fire,
Pizza box has grease, so
it happens.
One. And then you see he like comes in with another box to put it out, and it starts on fire.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's
with
a
your
good
notable
video,
cases. Well, it's not a good video, but it's entertaining, I guess.
I think one of these examples, I know which one the picture is, but
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure that they're.
Well, let's see. Am I gonna have to gouge my eyes out after this?
I should
We're
put
gonna
out
have
a
to call this the
disclaimer. I don't
blind
know
podcast.
100% sure if these are real spontaneous
Verified.
combustion
Right.
pictures. I know a couple of them are, but there's one or two of them in here that I couldn't really find any like real solid evidence.
I'll take your word for it because you do have a PhD in fan mechanics.
I do. I'm a fan canic.
You're a fantastic researcher.
So, in 1951, this woman, Mary Reeser, she was 67 years old. She was found burned to death in her house after her landlady like tried to knock on her door and realized that the doorknob was hot. She notified.
So it was burning.
Yeah. So I don't know if she was still burning or what, but that's
Well, if
just
the
what.
doorknob's hot, some part of the house has to have been on fire.
Right.
Unless she's literally right in front of the door.
So
Anyway,
I don't
go
know
on.
if that. I don't
Go
know
on.
if that's real.
It's okay.
Or how close she was to the
Right.
whatever. That's just what it said in the article. She notified the police upon entering the home. They found her remains completely burned to ash, with the exception of one leg intact. The
Only
chair
one
was
leg?
sitting. The chair she was sitting at was also destroyed, and they found her temperature. Like later on, when they had, I guess, done like a whatever forensics, they found that the temperature had to have been somewhere around 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
So that is possibly one of the reasons that it was so hot. You know, maybe it burned for
It was
a really
like one
long
really
time.
hot fire.
Well, I mean the doorknob. I don't know why I put that. Anyway, she was a sleeping pill user as well as a smoker.
That
so people
answers
think
a lot of questions. Yeah,
yeah.
I
So
know the
people
answer.
think
I
that
know how she
popped some
died.
pills.
Yeah.
And then fell asleep with her cigarette in her hand.
Can you
and-
imagine
and
being
burned
that
her
old and
nightgown?
still needing sleeping pills? I thought old people just sleep all day.
I mean, your body gets old.
I mean,
man,
it would
you
suck.
know?
And I mean, there's stuff I want to do a podcast on it, but like fatal familial insomnia, where you just can no longer sleep until you die.
Yeah.
But it's just
Ooh, that's
crazy.
a good one,
'cause-
yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to cover that because of all of my irrational fears, prion diseases are definitely one of them.
Yeah. So this woman, Mary Reeser, is basically the not first case of it, but one of a very good example of the Wick effect.
Okay. Is there a picture for this one?
Yeah, there is a picture for this one. Let me make sure it's the right one real quick. Oh God, that's disgusting.
Maybe I shouldn't have thrown those hospital
fucking
puke bags over there.
I believe it is this. Wait, yeah, this one. Oh, okay. Well, I got a colorized version and I have an uncolorized version, and they're both.
Just by your
absolutely
reactions,
disgusting.
I'm not sure if we're going to be able to throw these straight on the podcast.
All right, I'm putting it in the projects page here.
Yeah, that's where we want it.
So this is Mary Reeser here.
Oh my.
So that's the uncolorized version. Here's the colorized version. That one's taken a little bit
Am
lower,
I that
I believe.
desensitized? Because to me, this is just like interesting and not really bizarre. I mean, it's bizarre and wild, but it's not like haunting
It's just-
me or anything.
It's something about old photos and how stark and nasty they look. It's just something about that gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like whenever they do an old episode of Forensic Files or like when on Forensic Files, if they cover an old case and they show all the crime scene photos from it, it's always black and white, and it always just makes it look so much more
I kind of know what
evil.
you're saying, Andrew, and I kind of want to see like a Forensic Files on an older case like that just to see what you're talking about, because I do understand what you're saying.
It's
because
like the Twilight Zone.
In the
If
colorized,
the Twilight Zone was
Yeah, go ahead.
colorized, the Twilight Zone would be a lot less scary, in my opinion, because it's not as stark.
Yeah, even this colorized picture though, Andrew, it gives you. I mean, it's literally got. You see that octagon end table with the phone on it?
Right.
Like that's something that my grandma would have.
Oh yeah, my grandma does have one of those.
And like there's also that, you're right, like there's the disturbingness of it with the legs being kind of like crispy and the rest of the body being a pile of charcoal. And also just like how it's also kind of nostalgic in a way, seeing like, I mean, the colors, those are colors from that kind of time, you know, like it's like green. And I mean, I don't know if the colors are accurate, but that brown rug,
Yeah, it's like a pea soup green and like a brown.
it's literally a blast from the past.
Yeah.
So it does make it, and you're right, the black and white photo is even more.
And I mean, it is the 50s, so you know all of this stuff is stuff our grandparents probably have.
It's true. It's true. I wouldn't even be surprised. That end table looks so familiar that it might be the same exact like brand and make as the one that my grandma had. Had. I don't know if she has it anymore.
It's totally possible.
Regardless, I think these can be shown, so I will show them. I don't know about the rest, but we'll see.
The rest are pretty similar.
Okay, so these probably will go up on the podcast.
So another guy, I don't know what year this was. I didn't write it down, but Henry Thomas, a 73-year-old man, was found burned to death in his living room. His whole body, except for his legs, were burned, and his legs still had pants, socks, and shoes still on. They also think that this was a version of the Wick effect because I guess the clothing was like burned, you know, obviously the clothing was burned around where the leg was, and there was like some kind of like fat tissue or something there that had been melted. Right. So they think it was the Wick effect. I think the picture for this one, oh my God. Yeah, there's one of them that you're definitely not going to be able to show.
And here's the thing, we're not monetizing these podcasts for quite a while till down the line, I would assume. So if we ever do monetize them, if that's ever an option or we feel like we want to, then these kind of images will probably stop appearing. So
yeah, I don't actually have a picture of Henry Thomas. I don't have that one.
Okay.
But
hook me up with what you got.
Hold on. In 2010, this happened in 2010 in Ireland. Is Ireland or Scotland? This guy Michael Faherty, his neighbor called the cops because he saw like, I guess, smoke coming from the house.
Okay.
And then, you know, he called him, and you know, Michael didn't pick up, so he called the phone or the police. And they found his body completely burned with only the floor and ceiling damaged. And his body was near a fireplace, so it's possible that, you know,
Started on fire.
that could be the reason for his death.
Yep.
But they said, observing the crime scene, they didn't think that the fireplace had anything to do with his death.
And
so,
he didn't have a cigarette found anywhere or anything like that?
No. So take that one with a grain of salt. Not entirely sure.
It is one of those bizarre things. Like, until you prove that it does or doesn't happen, you know? I mean, you can't even prove that it doesn't happen.
This one's actually a bit older. I don't know when this one was taken.
Oh, my. This one, to me, is a lot more graphic.
See, that's disgusting because it's even more, you know, obviously the quality is horrible, so you can't really see what's going on.
You're right. There is something to be said that the older the quality... And this is verified. This is a real crime scene picture from this or whatever. Not necessarily a crime, but yeah. I mean that.
I think this one is
That is like the older the picture and the grainier it is, and if you know that it's real, which we're under the impression that it is, it definitely has more impact to me.
It's gritty.
It's gritty.
It's a lot grittier because there's a lot more noise.
You know what else
like,
it is? It's more to the imagination. I think
Right.
if you just look at straight gore in our colorized pictures with our resolution,
Like
it's
super
just
high
that.
definition.
Whereas this, it's uncolorized, so I'm just kind of like imagining the colors and imagining, because I mean, if you look at the legs, behind the legs, it's a big black blob, but I'm kind of imagining the remains of like what looks like chair legs there and the ashes from the body. And I mean, the wall there is like melting. I don't know if that's blood or if it's just like paint dripping, but it adds another effect to the photo.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting at earlier, is that one of the, like, there's even this guy that I guess took like a camera that would be like a black and white camera,
Right.
And shot like a whole horror movie and that kind of action. I'll have to find it and send it to you, because it, like, I remember seeing it like a couple months ago and like getting goosebumps thinking how creepy it was. Like that picture of the Russian sleep experiment where it's that like creepy looking thing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's just something about those photos being so grainy and so
we should do one on creepypastas or something, like our favorite scary stories or creepy.
That would be a really good one. You know what else is a really good one? This picture. Oh. So there's some legs with a skeleton attached, kind of.
Oh my. It's like the imprint of a skeleton.
Yeah, and I mean, as you can see,
is this like in an attic?
I'm not sure where this is. This was one of the pictures that I found that I could not find any information on. I think this was like, I did read that it was like an FBI agent or like somebody in the FBI, like, or an investigator of some kind.
Who's doing it, or the one who died?
No, the guy that's taking like the sample or whatever.
Well, I mean, we're gonna assume that these are probably legit, but you should also keep in mind that not all of these are sourced and verified. So, I mean, that picture could be fake. You know what I mean?
I think this one is actually the Michael Faherty one.
Okay. You're right. These older pictures really do have like some kind... Is that still on fire when they took the picture? Or is that ash?
What?
It almost looks like it's flaming.
Oh, I think part of that is the
ash.
As you can see, there's like some like burn marks on the fireplace itself.
Right.
This one looks to me like a complete case of he got like fire on him from the fireplace somehow.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty obvious.
Right there.
I mean, if that didn't happen, then that doesn't make any sense. I mean,
and I think, do not quote me on this, but I think this one was the Michael Faherty one.
The one they said
because they said he
didn't
was
think
so
it?
close.
And they said they didn't think it was from the fire?
And they didn't think it was from the fire. They actually completely ruled that it was, like, the coroner said, I can't find any other reason. It has to be spontaneous human combustion. Which I still think is wrong. But this is the last one.
Maybe there's like a
supervillain
villain who can start people on fire that just goes around.
Yeah.
Starts these people on fire.
This one I think is a bum. Like a
bum?
female bum that somehow caught fire. But this could completely be something else. This was one of the ones that I couldn't find any information for.
Okay.
I just thought it was a really grotesque photo.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty graphic. It's partially because she didn't get burned that far. I don't know.
It didn't burn her whole body.
And here's the thing. This might not even be spontaneous combustion. This could have been just like a murder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could have been just somebody throwing fire on somebody and then they got put out. That's why I was a little hesitant about this one.
Right, and also that it could have been someone disposing of a body and trying to burn it. You know, I mean,
right.
I'll probably still put it up, but I mean, these aren't, for the people who are watching, if you're scared to look, which will maybe just give you like a 5-minute countdown or something as we put these pictures up. None of them are like gory and graphic. They're just mentally disturbing, I guess.
Yeah.
They're not.
I mean, it's burned bodies with like the legs still intact, essentially.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
it's disturbing,
might
but
be
to
more
me,
horrific to others.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
but being
regardless,
that
if they
I've grown
got to
up
this
on the
point,
internet,
the pictures have already shown up. So I don't
being
know.
that I've grown up on the internet, I've seen some way more fucked up shit.
Yeah, this doesn't faze me as much because we're looking at normal human legs and then burnt ashes. Like, the idea of the picture is graphic and disturbing, but the picture itself with no context, I would just be like, I don't know what I'm looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it honestly almost looks fake. It's this pair of legs sitting next to a pile of ash.
Yeah.
If you didn't tell me this was based on spontaneous human combustion, then I would have been like, I don't know what this is. Did you have anything else to follow up or to talk about? Was that just kind of ended the way it was?
Yeah, just I guess my closing statement is basically I don't really know if spontaneous combustion is an actual real thing. It's possible, but it's highly, highly unlikely.
Yeah,
so
and
I think it's horseshit.
I'll say what I took from the whole topic. I also don't believe in spontaneous combustion. I do see it as plausible, but very unlikely. And so what I've taken from this is I believe that most of this has to do with ball lightning. I'm just kidding.
Alex, please don't tell me that you're converting to ball lightning.
Ball lightning did 9/11.
The Earth is just ball lightning, flat ball lightning.
I swear I've heard ball lightning thrown as like a conspiracy theory before. So, or as a dismissive,
aliens?
like,
Nope, that's ball lightning.
or maybe it was something where they're like, oh, because I don't know if these are true, but I used to have a book called Weird US and it had the craziest places, and there used to be these like marsh places where these gases would cause these balls to float around at like dusk. Don't remember if this was real or not, but it sounds.
Well, that's what they blame UFOs on.
Right, and those are
call it
real, right?
swamp gas.
I was young and I didn't verify things like that back then. Are they real?
I don't know.
I
My
should
PhD
look into that.
didn't cover that one.
I should
My
look
PhD
into that.
on fans.
All that though, Andrew, ball lightning.
Ball lightning. No, I
But no.
got it.
For real though, I don't. I see it as
People are dropping
plausible,
cigarettes on themselves.
but I feel like, yeah, exactly. And I feel like if spontaneous combustion did happen, even if it was to alcoholics who were smoking, it would happen more often in more weird places. Like, how come it's never happened at like a restaurant or in public? You know what I mean? And so if it does happen, okay, it's plausible. It's still rare, so maybe it just hasn't happened yet. But I feel like Andrew's right. It's cigarettes or a fire or whatever.
Well, think about this. How many famous people have you ever heard of that have died from spontaneous combustion?
There's not that many like famous people out there for how rare spontaneous combustion is.
Famous, alcoholic, smoker. Come on. I think there's a lot of famous people.
I mean, there's
that
a
would be
big overlap in
spontaneously-
alcoholic smokers and famous people, but like the Venn diagram with the non-famous
Damn it,
people
don't you
is
invalidate
pretty big.
me. Don't you invalidate me, you bastard.
No, I think it's possible, but it's very unlikely. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily subscribe to that idea.
It doesn't
I wanna
make a lot of
unsubscribe
sense.
from spontaneous combustion facts, please. So from there, my last one, and because these were all trying to be myths, like Andrew, actually, I do believe you did a really good job. We agreed before the podcast he was going to do fan death, and we went from there of myths. And I think that spontaneous human combustion is actually really good as a myth. And we didn't necessarily call it a myth. There's no way to say for sure one way or the other. But it is one of those things that people talk about.
Call
it
alleged myth.
It's a legend. Yeah, whatever. It's close enough. And so I actually think that we're closer to myths than we thought. Now, this one is another one that's closer to a misconception. But when I was reading about it, I kind of passed by, and it was something that was moderately relevant to me at one point. And so I thought I would go into it, and that's the like poisoned Halloween candy myth kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I love this. Okay. Hit
So,
me with that good shit.
I did go deep into one of them. I didn't go too deep into all of them because we were doing shorter ones, so I thought we'd go faster. We still ended up filling up a huge amount of time with how in depth you went into yours, and my first one was moderately long. So, so here's a couple little facts I was reading about poisoned Halloween candy and just the general idea of it. And there's no cases of a stranger killing or permanently injuring a child. There's no cases of a stranger killing or permanently injuring a child has been proven. So it's never been proven that there's some candy man out there on Halloween giving out poison and people dying. It's not to say that nobody's ever gotten hurt or someone's done something to tamper with candy, but no one's ever been killed or permanently injured by a random person at Halloween. So in 1959, there was a dentist who gave candy-coated laxative pills. Not permanently injured, not killing anyone. Really messed up.
That's a joke.
Well, it's a pretty grievous joke. So he did get time for that. And why would a dentist do that? Like, why would you sacrifice? Like, what? A dentist wants to give kids laxatives? I mean, I get it. Like, it's kind of like, oh, it's a funny prank, but it's like,
well, hey, I mean, draw this parallel. He's a dentist. He probably is like, listen, if I feed these kids laxatives, they're never gonna want to eat candy again. And then then I'll be out of a job. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
I'll be out of a job.
Yeah, what an idiot. He should have just given them a shitload of candy and then just, profited off of that.
Exactly.
Then don't brush your teeth. Bye.
So I don't know what his goal was, but it's kind of a prank, a very serious prank. I mean, nobody died or got seriously injured, but I mean, getting laxatives as a kid, I mean, I'm sure that could be potentially dangerous. Not like fatally dangerous, but so that happened, but no one was permanently injured or anything like that. In 1964, a woman gave inedible objects in packages to children she deemed too old to trick or treat. So basically she was like, this guy's too old, I'm going to give him this inedible packet. And in the packet they said they had steel wool, dog biscuits, and ant buttons. This was on the Wikipedia page, and what I've looked, ant buttons, supposedly, I was curious as well, Andrew, those little, what are they called, roach hotels?
Yeah.
It's like a little circular thing, and it's got holes, and the roaches go in, and then they die. They have those for ants as well. It's like a little circular thing, and it's got little holes, and the ants go in and die. That's when I typed in ant button, it was that, some pictures of Raid, and then Etsy ant buttons, like, Etsy, like, fancy craft like ant buttons. Like, so I'm like, I'm guessing this is what they're talking about, those little things. And obviously on the ant buttons, it said poisonous, do not eat, whatever. And she was not necessarily trying to kill people, but just trying to say, you're too old. This is what you actually deserve for trick-or-treating. So
yeah, it's like we had a guy like on my friend's street that like gave out Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
But that's funny and it's not dangerous. But it's still the same. Well, not necessarily.
It wasn't just funny; it was awesome. Like we were like, "Hell yeah, we're getting Yu-Gi-Oh cards."
I remember. This is still kind of going in, but this one house gave away popcorn balls. Those like coated popcorn balls that are like they're kind of candy, right? Yeah. But it's not traditional candy, and we loved it. It's like, oh, this is something different than 700 mini Snickers and M&Ms. You know what I mean?
Like the Boy Scout popcorn.
Yeah, kind of like that. Well, not necessarily. Have you never had a popcorn ball?
I mean, like what kind?
It's literally just like a ball of popcorn
with like coated in caramel, right?
Not. They might.
I was wondering what you were doing. I was like, what the hell? All right, guys. So Alex is taking his daily heroin tablet.
It's white.
That's definitely a heroin tablet if it's white. Or as Eddie says in the movie It, that's your gazebo.
So actually, I don't want to type anything because last time my audio stopped. But you can look it up, Andrew, on Google or something. Popcorn ball is just like a ball of popcorn. It could potentially be, caramel, but a lot of the times it's
Googling it. Popcorn ball.
A lot of the times it's either like fairly standard flavor.
Oh shit.
Or like.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's kind of like a coated sweet, but
it's a bunch of popcorn kernels like popped and stuck together.
Right.
In a ball.
Can you send me the picture?
Like a fist shaped.
Yeah, it's literally a ball.
Right.
And here's the thing, and this is why I was making the distinction. It's kind of irrelevant and stupid, but I don't like caramel popcorn. I'm going to be honest. It's sticky, and I don't like the sweet with the popcorn usually. But popcorn balls, traditionally, the main flavor is usually some kind of sweet flavor, but it's very subtle in comparison to like a the caramel popcorn. So I actually really like
Right.
them. And now that I'm talking about that,
It's
I'm gonna
more
have
like
to
a
go-
Rice Krispie.
I'm gonna have to go get one. Well, even Rice Krispies are like super sweet. But you're right. It's in that vein a lot. I think it's more subtle than that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, you know me. I'm not a huge sweets guy.
I'm
I
not
think
either.
Popcorn balls are like marshmallows or something. Like, isn't it usually like melted marshmallow and they mix like put?
Oh, the
put
Rice
together?
Krispies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe there's marshmallow in there somewhere. But you're right. I'm not a sweets guy either. I mean, there's certain things, certain chocolates I love. But if I go to a gas station, I'm not like, oh, I gotta buy some kind of candy. You know what I mean? Like usually I just leave with
Yeah.
a water and maybe if I'm feeling it one day I'll get a soda. But I really don't care about sweets. But no, I think popcorn balls, unless my taste has changed, and maybe this was before when I used to like sweets more. I think it used to be a more subtle. I don't know. I'm gonna get one of these days and try it again. Now that I'm reminding myself of it. Regardless, the point is that people who do things like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, popcorn balls, things that are not the same. I could go to 100 houses and probably half of them would have M&Ms. I'm not excited about getting a tiny thing of M&Ms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we did get excited when there was the houses that gave away full-size candy bars. I'm sure you had some of those as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then some people would give away... Here's the thing about the popcorn balls in my town. I believe those popcorn balls were actually homemade. I could be wrong. But that's the thing. Like, I never was scared about getting poisoned by the guy who's making popcorn balls for the kids on Halloween. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This lady used to give us apples every year.
Caramel apples. That I wouldn't.
No,
I wouldn't
just
scoff.
apples.
No, I get you. But I mean, some people give away caramel apples. I wouldn't have scoffed at a caramel
yeah.
apple. But that's usually the joke is the apple with the razor, right? That's one of the big ones.
Right. Or the apple with, some kind of poison in it or something.
Right. I always heard, the biggest one that I always heard, and the one that bothered me, I have this, I don't know if I should say fear, but when you say like apple, a razor blade in an apple, I'm just thinking about biting into it. And like razor blades are incredibly sharp. One of my greatest fears, I read on Reddit one time, someone posted this, maybe it was a YouTube comment, I don't know where it came from, but they said, it's the fake story and this never happened, but they said if the guy before you on a water slide taped razor blades facing upwards on the water slide, and I'm like, you don't have to go on anymore, and I'm already having like existential fear about my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's something
I'm not
about
a fan of that.
Scalpels as well. I think something about like these razor sharp knives, because they cut so cleanly, it's scary to me. I'm less scared about the concept of a knife being on a water slide. You know what I mean? It's literally the same concept. It would still do damage to you, and yet I'm not as scared of a knife.
I mean, it would be terrifying, but
It would be bad either way, but the concept of the razor blade scares me far more. I don't know why.
for me, I don't like things in my food. I don't like the thought of eating something and then, having something bad happen
Like
to
a
me
hair?
because of it. Like when I was a kid, I used to be terrified of getting crickets in my food because the school that I went to had like a bad cricket problem, and there would always be dead crickets in the hallways, like in the corners or like just
I feel
in
like that's
the middle
every
of the
school.
hallway.
Our school had crickets. I mean,
I don't know what it is about schools and attracting like a bunch of crickets. But
I think it has
there was
something to do with so
always-
many doors and kids going in all the time that things like crickets
Yeah.
get in. But,
Well, there was a lot of them,
but
so I was
yeah, it
always
sounds like you had
terrified.
slightly more of a...
Yeah, I would always check my food to make sure there was no crickets in it, and like it was this legitimate fear that I had,
Right.
like, and it was just with crickets too. Like I was terrified of it. Like I was religious about checking my food and checking like my milk whenever I opened it.
Yeah, I have a
What
problem.
if a cricket jumped in and in the milk when it was getting processed?
I
don't know.
have a very similar one as you, Andrew. Have you ever seen the movie? I think it's Mousetrap, like a Disney kids movie.
Yes.
If it's that movie that I'm thinking about, there's a point where I don't know exactly what goes on or whatever, but a guy eats something and there's a roach.
It's a salad.
He eats
Or
a
it's like
salad.
some
He
food
eats-
at a restaurant.
He eats something at a restaurant and he eats a roach, and half the roach is still alive and it's like running across the table.
Yeah.
That disgusted me. I'm legitimately, when I think about that, I haven't seen the movie in like 15, 18
holds up.
years. It's literally, I still, when I think about it,
holds
I
up.
get nauseous. Like the thought of biting half, I think I could stomach the concept more if I was just eating a cockroach full and just like biting into it. But for some reason, that thought of eating half in a bite is far worse. And it seriously, it makes me ill to this day when I think about it. There's very few things like that. The razor blade thing, that one doesn't necessarily make me ill, but it makes me like panic. And the cockroach thing, like there are just certain things that I think about that still bother me to this day. It's really weird things like that. It's literally a movie I saw. It's a kid's movie too. It's not supposed to be traumatic.
It might be a kid's movie, but it was directed by Gore Verbinski, and he's got a brain that's probably like jet black.
What does that mean? These words don't mean anything to me.
He just makes weird shit. Like he's just a weird guy. What else did he make? Gore. Let's see. You've piqued my interest because that movie in my mind has been like one of the movies that defined me as a kid, I think.
What do you mean? It did for me too, but it defined me in a negative manner. It was a
disgusting movie.
Wait, the whole movie?
The two guys, yeah, the whole movie is disgusting.
We should watch this movie together, Andrew.
Because they get like
our fears
mouse
together.
poop. Yeah, they get mouse poop on them and stuff, and the house that they're like trying to demolish or whatever that still has the mouse in it, like it's just disgusting.
We're gonna have to watch this movie together, Andrew, and we're either gonna come out worse than we started, or we're gonna beat our fears together. Okay.
He also did The Ring.
He did The Ring,
and he did Rango, which is an amazing movie. Gotta say, I loved Rango. I don't know what else he did. Oh, he did Pirates of the Caribbean.
All of them. That's still going somehow. I don't know how it's still going. My little cousins were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch the new Pirates of the Caribbean." I'm like, I thought that was like 20
He did the first
years
3
ago.
films.
Okay. How many are there now? Films. My cousins are talking about like Pirates of the Caribbean, so it's like they did a trilogy and then it stopped, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're bringing it back. They must have really needed money or something, because that's a really weird. Doesn't that seem like a weird franchise to just spin off and keep going on?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Disney World?
I did.
Do you remember? I think it was Disney World used to have that Pirates of the Caribbean ride. This was in the heyday. Do you remember that?
I don't think I went. I don't think I went to Disney World when I went to Disney World before Pirates of the Caribbean came out. Like I went in like 97, I think.
You remember Space Mountain in Disney
98.
World? Space Mountain ride. You're talking Disney World in Florida, right?
Yeah. The thing I remember the most was the log ride.
Splash Mountain,
and then the Buzz Lightyear ride, where you would like shoot like enemies or whatever.
There was a lot. They've had a lot of iterations of those over these.
And then I don't remember Space Mountain.
In the place that had Splash Mountain, the only other good ride, in my opinion, and Splash Mountain was like a trip thing. I would go to Splash Mountain once and I'd be done with it. You know, I don't want to keep going and get wet all day. You know what I mean? It's just like, whoa, that's cool. Space Mountain. This was at, which kingdom is that? Is that because Disney has those 4 kingdoms or whatever, the 4 parks.
Yeah.
Epcot and whatever, whichever one that's.
I remember everything at Epcot.
I don't remember Epcot at all. I do actually remember they had one movie where they had like the seats that would poke you if something happened, or like you'd feel what felt like roaches running under you or mice, whatever it was back then. Those things are still cool to me. I would actually like to go back and experience it as an adult.
You know how fascinated I am with like antiquity, like Disney
that's
rides
true.
And stuff.
We should do a deep lore road trip to Disney World and vlog it.
I'll be down, dude. I gotta break into Epcot and like go look at all the old closed down rides and everything.
So I was gonna say Space Mountain is the one that's like my favorite ride. It's the last time I went to Disney World, I was probably like 12. I was still pretty young, but I was kind of old for Disney kind of stuff, or caring like it was some magical kingdom at that point. And I remember we went in, we rode Space Mountain like 8 times in a row, and then we left. Like my dad didn't care for it either anymore. And luckily that day the line was, I don't know if it rained or something, but the line for Space Mountain was like 2 minutes. So we just kept going. Nice. Space Mountain, this might remind you if you did go on the ride, is that you go, it's am I saying Space Mountain? It's Space something. I don't know if it's Space Mountain. It's in the dark. It's a roller coaster in the dark, Andrew. And there's like all these poles because it's like how you see the inside of this big dome, the space dome, and there's all these poles of how all the roller coaster is built. And for whatever reason, there's some kind of optical illusion where it always looks like if you put your hands up, you're going to get your arms sliced off by the poles. Like there's poles where it gets like it's in front of you, and then all of a sudden you just dip down and go under it. But it's like, shit. I remember the first time I was terrified. It's like this, you know? And then like as time went on and on, I'd see people raising their hand. I'm like, this guy's going to lose his hands, you know? And then eventually when no one lost a hand, I was like, okay. Because like literally you can't have a ride where you can lose your arm.
Yeah.
But it, for some reason with that ride, it seriously seems like someone's going to lose a limb. I don't know what the optical illusion is on. And it's not on purpose. It's just a dark roller coaster. I mean, if you went on it, you'd probably remember it, but maybe you didn't ride it.
I mean, if I did ride it, I was so little. Like,
Were you that young?
I was 7. And the thing I remember the most actually was Nickelodeon Studios, because they had that big slime thing out there. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know if you remember that, but they would put people in it and it would slime you.
I don't know.
It was on that show Slime. You never watched Slime Time?
I remember Slime Time very vaguely. I never really cared for a lot of that stuff, but I do remember it existing and putting goo on people, which is
they had this big like it was like this alien looking structure thing that had like these tubes, and there was like a tube in the center with like all these green things coming off of it, like green tubes coming off of it. And then they would like open a door and like put people in it and stuff.
Right.
And it would every like couple hours or whatever, it would like make the sounds and stuff and like shake like it was like the slime was building up in it or something.
That's cool.
It was super cool.
No, that's the cool thing is like when you're a kid, Disneyland is so cool. Like I'm remembering like maybe the first time I went to Disneyland, I just remember being so little and like just walking around and everything's just like so crazy. And like I was never into Disney and Mickey Mouse and all that, but just like how they built the castles and like how they laid out the place. And this was 18 years ago. I mean, I don't even know how old I was then, but maybe even more than 18 years ago. So I don't know how much it's changed, but when you're that little, I mean, it's just like it's fascinating to see something that's built up like a magical castle or whatever, you know, when you're young.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of that kind of stuff at Disney World too. I mean, essentially, it's just one giant imagination collection of things that people are like, hey, is this a cool, interesting idea that would fit the theme of this pavilion or whatever? Right. Yes. Okay. Well, cool. We're building it.
What I'm thinking of is what gives me the same kind of Disney thing much later in my life, like my teens, and I still probably would like it now, but like Renaissance fairs, you know what I mean? It's still kind of like this magic, not necessarily magic, but you know what I mean? It's like this fantasy medieval place, and like I've never gone and dressed up like a knight or anything crazy like that, but just I like how they lay it out a lot. I went to the one in Minnesota a bunch. I don't remember if I've been to a different one, but just like, you know what I mean? Of them in Texas. There's all the people dressed up, and it just feels like you're in another place. You know what I mean?
To me, it was always kind of a haven because I've always been very nerdy. And
yeah, don't get me wrong.
Everybody there is in character, or you know, enjoying just the role play of it all. Like I remember when I was a kid, my dad and my mom took me to one of the ones in Texas, and I got like they bought me like a little shield and like a little sword, and they bought my brother a little sword and shield as well. And so we'd be fighting each other and stuff like throughout the time that we were there, and then like people would come up to us, like, you know, guys in like real full armor with swords, and they'd pretend to fight with us, and then let us like kill them or whatever, and they'd like fall over and pretend like they were dead. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, and here I want to talk about this in a podcast at one point, but one of the really cool things was I was part of our church's youth group, because our church's youth group used to go on like all these crazy trips. This is in high school. So we basically were a bunch of high schoolers who went to youth group to go to we'd go to baseball games, football games. We'd go to the Renaissance Fair and other things. And I remember one time, I think it was like sophomore year, I was like 16 or 17. And I have recordings of this somewhere, but it was on an old phone. And the recording is literally like
the tiniest thing ever.
50 pixels by 50 pixels. I uploaded it. But my friend and I can link it to you at some point. My friend, and this is something I want to do a whole podcast on at some point, but two of my friends got hypnotized. And I'm like so conflicted on something like hypnotism where I just don't believe it. But at the same time, I knew these guys so well, and it like totally changed me where I'm like, I don't know, it might be like a thing. You know what I mean? So we should do a podcast on hypnotism. If that never happened,
be terrified to get hypnotized and say some like dark secret that I don't want anybody knowing.
And here's the thing. I don't believe it's quite that bad. I don't think you can get hypnotized and be told to kill someone. What it seemingly is with the people that, and what I know and what I've heard, some people are going to say it can make you do anything. You know, that's like the myth and whatever. What it seems like is they kind of get you in this state where you're willing to take commands for something you could do, but you don't have to take responsibility for it, so to speak. So you can do slightly embarrassing things, but if they told you to kill someone, I think that would like break the trance.
Yeah. I just meant like.
But no, that's the same thing. If someone asked you your darkest secret, I think that would like you wouldn't answer your darkest secret. You might, I don't know. And that's the thing. I'm not entirely convinced hypnotism is real, but I definitely am more open to the idea of it than I was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in a podcast sometime. We've diverged so far, and we haven't even finished our topic. So let's go back.
Oh, shit.
And so we were talking about poison Halloween candy, and so we've said that no cases of a stranger killing or permanently injured child has ever been proven. The dentist gave kids laxatives, so there's a kind of example, but not something to be worried for your life about.
Right.
The woman giving inedible objects. So, and what we were talking about is Andrew saying he got Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards and, you know, cool stuff for Halloween. But she was like, "Oh, you're 14." And I remember me and my friend Anthony are both very small. We were fairly short and we're very skinny. We trick-or-treated up until like 14 years old, you know, high school. And obviously, it took a couple years off, but I remember one year, it was like freshman year. It's like, "You want to go trick-or-treating?" And I'm like, we probably can. So we did.
Yeah.
And we didn't go that far. It's Halloween. It would have been easier for us to just buy candy, but for some reason, here's the thing. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. Not just creepy movies and creepy vibes, but trick-or-treating itself is so much fun. It's weird now to trick-or-treat when you're an adult, but I tried to utilize trick-or-treating as much as I could.
It's an atmosphere thing, I think.
It is. I still like the concept.
Feeling of going and trick-or-treating, the cool night air. I don't know how it was for you, but
yeah, see, and
for
that's
us
another
in
thing.
October, it was usually pretty cold.
Well, there were some times where it actually snowed on Halloween for us, but
that would suck, I feel.
That does suck. But usually, you're right, autumn is usually my favorite time of year. I really love where it's just warm enough where you can wear a t-shirt or a really light sweatshirt, but there's a wind that's kind of chilly and you know what I mean? You're kind of like a little cold. Yeah. That's my favorite time of year, and it sucks because that's like 2 weeks. I mean, in Minnesota, it can fluctuate, but it's literally like 3 days of that, 3 days of hot, 3 days of freezing cold, 3 days back of that, you know. But that's one of my favorite weathers is where it's just cold enough where you're like kind of huddling and you're like, oh, you know, it's a little nip of winter, but it's still warm enough that you're not in a coat going, I want to kill myself unless I get inside in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, see, we don't have that kind of cold down here.
It's pretty much for you, though, it should still get cold that you don't like to be outside. No, my dad lives in Texas. He does not like to be outside in the cold.
Central Texas is not bad at all. It'll be, 100 degrees up until, early September or late, mid-September. And then for the rest of the year, it's like moderate. Right. I mean, there'll be days where it gets pretty cold. Like sometimes it'll ice over. It's snowed like twice in my lifetime here, or 3 times in my lifetime, but for the most part, like the only cold we get is like enough for like leather jacket maybe.
See, here's the thing, I don't like the cold, I don't mind the snow. So like your guys, sometimes it goes down below like 30, rarely, but it does, but there's no snow or anything. So to me, that's just as equivalently bad as it being 30
gypped
in Minnesota.
Yeah, you're getting gypped.
Yeah,
I mean, and I can't tell you how many summers I've had where it's like 70 degrees out. Mm-hmm. I mean, not summer. How many Christmases I've had where it's like 70 degrees, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, where's Christmas? Yeah, see, and that's the thing. I don't know if I ever would want to live in somewhere like Texas because I don't like the snow 3 months of the year or however long it lasts. Winter can last forever here. But I would miss snow almost certainly. Winter, like Christmas with no snow, would feel like some kind of sham to me. But
It kind of does, honestly. Yeah, it does.
yeah, and so I mean, one of the funny things is though that snow can be so annoying to so many people. I mean, you get rust because people salt the roads, and you
See,
get
that's
that
what would bug me about
that's
it.
a problem. And then when it does snow, it can be really problematic when you have like big snow. I remember just 2-3 years ago, I was outside and the snow trucks came in or whatever, and it snowed a ton. Like I'm talking like by our sidewalk. I mean, it was like, we're talking like this much snow just sitting on the side to the sidewalk as you're walking through this, like you're like walking through almost half of a corn maze length in height. Yeah. And then in the corner of the road where they end up piling all the snow after snow blowing the road or whatever you call it, then you have these big piles on the road, which eventually they usually come pick up. But I remember looking at the pile and I'm just looking up and I'm just like, what the hell? It's like a mountain. And usually that's just, it can be annoying with all the snow, and where does it go? Where do you put it?
It would be nice to have a white
I would hate snow a lot
Christmas.
more if I had a house where I had to shovel the snow.
See, and I wouldn't want to have to drive in it, but it would be nice. Like, I've never had a white Christmas before. Like, I've never had snow on Christmas. And I think that would be super cool to experience, but I really don't think I would enjoy driving to work every day in snow.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. And that's the thing is, I used to live in Texas until I was 9, and up until 9, we would oftentimes, me and my mom and my sister would drive up to South Dakota, which, holy shit, what a drive. I never want to do that in my life again. It was like 13 hours straight.
Yeah.
We would drive up to South Dakota to stay with my grandpa and grandma, and we're talking like it's always warm, and then we get to go up for Christmas, and it's like it's snowing, and making snow angels and snowmen. And snowmen is one of those things you can't build. If it's snowing normally, you usually can't build snowmen. Snowmen's like at the end of winter when the snow is melting. But yeah, regardless, I do love snow. There's something really, to me, peaceful about snow.
Oh yeah, because it totally it stops sound. I can't think of the word right now. What's the acoustically? It's like a foam.
It dampens everything.
It dampens. Yeah, dampens.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
I think that
I'm not saying I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, I've never even really considered that being part of it, but you're right. I do feel like, and maybe that's because the memories that I have are when I would go outside my grandparents' house at like 8 p.m., 9, 10 p.m. on these Christmas breaks and make snow angels, and whatever. I remember it being quiet, but that partially could be due to the fact that it's 8, 9, 10 p.m. at night. So,
well, I mean, every time I've been in snow, because I have gone, like I've gone on vacation and gone to places where there was snow, but every time I have, it does have like a eerie, I mean, not necessarily eerie, but wherever I was staying, it was kind of like a eerie quiet, because I'm so used to living in town.
I agree with you. I think that's definitely, regardless, again, here we go. This is our podcast, people. Rambling. Yeah. Topics with rambling in between. And I enjoy that.
Hey, and guys, you want to listen to rambling?
I'm hoping that, see, now I don't have to edit you anymore. You can do it yourself. I'm hoping you guys enjoy this kind of rambling, because that's half the focus of the podcast is just our lives and what we like and what interests us. And I mean, we're not here to we're not like vloggers where we're just going to tell you about all of our lives, but oftentimes there's going to be a lot of talk about our experiences with things. I see you going black and white back there. So the point that we were talking about is, I guess, Halloween. Oh God, you've messed up your lighting, haven't you? Are you gonna have troubles?
No, I put it all back to default.
But anyways, Halloween, like I was saying, it's my favorite holiday. I wish I could have trick-or-treated longer, but what I was gonna say is, Andrew, we should try to make a movement, a petition.
We should trick-or-treat. You're right.
No. We should make like October or November 1st or October 30th adults trick-or-treat day. None of that candy side shit. It'll be you know what? We'll make the kids be the ones giving out candy to the adults as their punishment for all the candy they're getting for us.
I want cookies and cream bars. Okay, I want full-size Twix bars.
It's all full
None of that kid
shit. You don't want
that
candy, the baby candy size stuff. This is adult trick or treating.
Give me packs of Cheez-Its.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cheez-Its, any snacks. Give me lobster claws. I don't care. I'll take anything.
I
to be
tend to go
candy.
for the salty and the savory, so I'm gonna say lobster claws as well. Give me lobster claws.
Dude, now
Actually,
I'm
no.
super hungry
Give me
for
lobster
lobster.
tail.
Lobster
and
tail.
A little bit of butter.
You know, I've had a problem with lobster lately. Oh, here we go again. Where I used to love it, and lately I've been eating lobster, and it always ends up like too chewy for me. I need to get like some expensive ass lobster somewhere or something.
I haven't eaten lobster in. I think the last time I had really good lobster, and might even be the last time I had lobster, was when I was 13. It couldn't have been
Did you
that
like
long.
it?
But the last time I had memorable lobster was when I was 13, and it was good.
So how come you don't have lobster very often? You
I
prefer
don't
other
really
seafood?
live in a place that I can get it very often.
Even worst case scenario, you got to have seafood restaurants around you that have lobster stock.
I mean, there are, but I mean, I don't have the money to afford very nice lobster.
That's true.
And I don't really eat
You don't want
seafood
Red
very
Lobster.
often. Like there's actually not very many seafood places near me. When I go to the coast, I do, but I usually get like shrimp tacos or something.
Well, here's the thing, Andrew. You say there's not many around you, and you're right that they're really prevalent on the coast. But there's got to be. I'm in the middle of Minnesota, and there's sushi restaurants all over.
And I'm sure there are some. I just don't know any good restaurants that have good lobster
It's okay
tail.
that you just don't eat seafood. I was just curious why, because like, if there was one subset of food I could eat for the rest of my life, and I was not allowed to have anything else, I would pick seafood.
Dude, I love seafood. Don't get me wrong. Seafood is amazing. If I could, like, I've had or you know what? I have had lobster since then. It was lobster rolls.
Oh, that sounds good.
Oh my god, it's delicious. Have you ever had a lobster roll?
Are you talking about like a sushi lobster roll, or is this
No.
something different? Oh no, you talked to me about this. Wasn't it like
Let me
some
link
kind
it
of
to
roll,
you.
like a
so good.
pastry kind of thing?
I can't
We
believe I
talked
forgot
about this not that long ago, where you sent me these pictures. Send me the pictures again. I don't remember.
I'll send you a nice messy one and then a nice not messy one.
Okay, we'll put
'Cause
these
you
on the
gotta-
podcast too. Throw them in the projects. No, I still like lobster because I had this lobster bisque 3-4 years ago when I was on St. John or St. Thomas on vacation, and it was delicious. But I just haven't had like straight up lobster and enjoyed it for a long time. Oh,
It's been a long time since I've had lobster by itself,
What is
but I
this
know
first
I've had
picture?
a
It looks
lobster
delicious.
roll
Oh, is
in
that
like
the
the
popcorn
last
ball?
2 years.
Well, that popcorn ball.
Yeah,
looks
that was the
delicious.
popcorn ball.
Dude, you're making me so hungry.
Those lobster rolls look really good,
That
don't
bottom
they?
lobster roll looks beautiful. Actually, they both
Yeah.
do.
Oh, check out this one real quick.
Where do you
Just-
get these?
Just one last
I
one.
need these. I need them in my life. Why are you doing this to me, Andrew? Because you know
I'm
what?
telling you,
You know
man.
what happens now is we're gonna end the podcast, and I'm gonna have to go make some boring ass spaghetti because that's all I have the budget for right now.
Oh, I'm gonna make like a grilled cheese or something. But
I could maybe
the
make a
thing
grilled
about
cheese.
that, anything that comes in a hoagie roll like that is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was staying with my ex-girlfriend a while back, and there was this pizza place that delivered, but they also had like wings. I'm trying to remember everything they had. They had a bunch of stuff, and I was like, this is kind of weird. Wings make sense for a pizza place. That's even Domino's has wings. But they also had like hoagies, and they had some other crazy stuff in there. They had calzones and some other stuff. And in one of the hoagies was a fish hoagie, and I was laughing, and I'm like, do you really have a pizza place that delivers a fish hoagie? And I'm like, that sounds awful and a terrible mistake. And then I was like, you know what? I have to know what this fish hoagie tastes like from this pizza place that delivers. And I had it, and holy shit, it was amazingly good. I never
Really?
would have expected that. And here's the thing. I love seafood. I'm not a big fan of just generic white fish usually. But that hoagie, I ended up getting it again. I was staying with my girlfriend for like a week. I ended up getting it again in that week I was there because it was so good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love. Oh my god.
I mean, I like to
love
be
anything
adventurous
that comes
with
in
food.
that kind of bread.
Yeah, that
And I mean, I'm not like the craziest like seafood fan, but if you have like crab cakes stuffed into something or like
even
my
just
God, I
any
had
kind of
crab
like crab
cake.
that's the crab cake style where it's like
they,
shredded.
they cut the salmon in half and cut it down the middle and then put crab cake in the middle and like stuffed it in.
I have
And then
salmon.
like that with
I'm gonna make salmon
with
tonight.
some it was either broccoli or asparagus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. It was amazing.
It sounds
dude.
delicious, dude. I'm so hungry.
Man.
All right, let's get back. Okay, go ahead, and then we're gonna get back.
Sorry, I was just gonna say if fish meat didn't have so much mercury in it, I would eat fish a lot more, I think.
Yeah, that's the problem. Although I don't think every fish is big on mercury. I know tuna's a big one. I don't
know. I think it's mostly, isn't it mostly for like freshwater fish?
Tuna's the big one, so I don't know. I know tuna's the one that they're always like, don't eat too much tuna, don't eat too much tuna. There's probably some more.
There was one point when I was going to Texas State, there was like a two fish rule or something. Like you could only catch 2 fish at Canyon Lake, which is like not really that far away, because they were so high in mercury content. They were like, you can only catch 2 and eat 2.
Or you die?
Or not eat 2, but like you can only catch 2 and eat like 2 a week or something, or else your mercury content will be like super high.
We should do some research on this. I don't know if it'll go on a podcast, but there is differences. I thought tuna was the number 1 fish with mercury issues, but I could be wrong, and maybe you're right. Maybe it is freshwater fish. But we could talk about our food all night, so let's try to segue back into...
Okay, wait, just real quick. Yeah, I just found it real fast. It says... Oh, God dang it. I just saw it. God dang it. Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Galveston.
Can't you just look up the highest mercury fish?
It was just here a second ago. Consumption bans. Yeah. Anyway, I'll find it at some point. And I'll let you know.
So we've already went over the woman giving inedible packages, whatever. And so here I've written that there's fewer than 90 instances, which sounds like a lot, but bear with me. There's fewer than 90 instances of candy tampering, and most were by adults for financial compensation or by kids for attention. So we're talking over all these years since the 60s or earlier. I mean, this one's 59. So at least since the late 50s, there's only ever been 90 instances of candy tampering at all. And most of them were by kids for attention. Because, look, my candy has a needle in it, or trying to poison or do some prank on friends. Or for adults who are like, look, somebody put, poison in my candy and I'm suing you, Snickers, whatever. So
right.
Most of the cases, and here it says, none of them were random attempts to harm children around Halloween. So no, just random, let's just throw stuff in the candy.
There's like money attempts and stuff.
Money attempts and hoaxes and pranks and whatever. So here's the one of the big ones that gave people a scare for a little bit. And probably still does if people don't know the whole story around it. So Ronald O'Brien went with 4 kids trick-or-treating. This is one of the biggest cases. This is the one I decided to cover.
I've probably heard this one.
There's a couple. Yeah, I'm sure you have. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this one. But this is one I decided to go in depth on just to cover one of the reasons that people are so scared. Ronald O'Brien went with 4 kids trick-or-treating, so he's going trick-or-treating, and then they get to a certain house, and after the occupant didn't answer the door, the children ran ahead to the next house, and O'Brien stayed behind. The father, he's not necessarily the father, he took a couple kids trick-or-treating. Not all his kids. After a minute or whatever, he caught up with them. He caught up with the kids and showed them 5 pixie sticks. He pulled them out from who knows where. Timothy O'Brien, his son, ate the pixie stick at home and died within the hour. The pixie stick that Timothy O'Brien, the guy's son, ate was laced with cyanide. And Ronald showed the police the home. First, the police were asking him where he got it, and he said he didn't remember, I believe. I didn't write all this down. They were asking him where he got it, and he said, I don't remember. And eventually he's like, here's the home where I got it, which is the home that the kids ran ahead or whatever. And he claimed that the man from that home only cracked the door open and handed him the 5 pixie sticks. So he never saw the face or whatever, right? And here's the kind of funny part. The homeowner was Courtney Melvin, and Courtney Melvin worked as an Air Force or a pilot or something. He worked at the airport as a pilot or something. Courtney Melvin got home. Yeah. Don't think it's too weird.
It's not. I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. So Courtney Melvin got home that night on Halloween at 11 p.m. And here's the thing. So he wasn't home that night, which it's dumb. Here's the thing. Obviously he didn't think this out, but if he's going to say that this house handed me the pixie sticks, right? And the house never opened, that means no one was home. They probably have an alibi. They were probably somewhere. So why wouldn't you just blame it on a different house that in the middle of handing out candy just decided to hand out the pixie sticks, right? Oh, we're giving out Snickers all night, and then this house, we just give them the pixie sticks, right? You could prove they were home. You can't prove they gave the pixie sticks, and they might not get in trouble. Hopefully they wouldn't, because it's a false attempt. But he did it to the house where no one was home. That guy wasn't home. Here's the thing. Nearly 200 people confirmed that Courtney Melvin was at work on that day. 200 witnesses, alibis, whatever you want to call them.
That's hilarious.
And so they found out that Ronald upped the life insurance on his son before the death, and that's when he became a suspect, when they noticed that.
So he's just a piece of crap.
He was a piece of crap. And he gave the other children the candy in an attempt to cover up that he was trying to murder his son for financial gain. Again, financial gain. It comes back to it every time. And just like a little ending note here is that Ronald O'Brien, on March 31st of 1984, was executed by lethal injection. So he did get murdered or killed. I don't know. There was I remember.
Sorry, I don't mean to condone death on the podcast, but that guy was obviously a real piece of crap.
I have conflicting opinions on the death penalty as well. Like sometimes I think it's kind of scary that potentially you could be falsely imprisoned for a wrong thing and get the death penalty. Like I'm sure,
but at the same time, if you play the stupid game, you win stupid prizes.
Well, here's the problem. We're not going to get too political on here, but the problem that I've heard with the death penalty a lot of times is it ends up costing more than just keeping them in prison for the rest of their life. So
right.
I don't know if it's
and
really
it takes forever to actually execute.
Right, and that's the thing is this guy got arrested in like the 60s. It was like at least 10 or 15 years he was in jail. Then he gets executed, plus all the money. And he had like 5 court dates where they kept staying the execution. So supposedly there's not really a benefit to executing people except for that, what would the word be, like revenge kind of thing for all the people getting justice, I guess.
Right.
People feeling...
Well, and the other thing is that you're kind of at a conundrum almost because, you either... execute the person and that costs money, or you keep them forever and that costs money. So
and that's the funny thing is usually the people decide what they think is worse. They're like, yeah, this guy's evil, he needs to die for it. And then you have people who are like, no, he's evil, he needs to sit in jail for the rest of his life for it. You know what I mean? So people can't even agree on what's the worst punishment,
they'll never be be able to agree on it either.
Death penalty, the easy way out, he doesn't deserve that,
Yeah.
But no, the funny thing was that they were saying
confinement
is that when he was being executed, there was people with candy throwing it at there's people protesting the death penalty because people are going to protest the death penalty for obvious reasons. And apparently the other people who were there were throwing candy at them saying trick or treat.
Oh my God.
So what's funny is they tried to schedule it on the 31st of October, the anniversary, to kill him on Halloween. That one ended up getting stayed and he got murdered on, I don't know, I think it was like some random March, I guess. So
yeah,
not on Halloween.
That would have been hilarious though.
Yeah. Pretty
I would have just shown up wearing like a Superman costume.
Superman injects him.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have showed up as like a horror monster and be like, time to meet your doom, buddy. Feed him a cyanide pixie stick.
Real quick before I forget,
right.
I found the thing. It says Canyon Lake in Comal County, chemical of concern, mercury. For striped bass and long-nosed gar, adults and children 12 and older are advised to eat no more than 2 8-ounce servings per month. Children under 12 should eat no more than 2 4-ounce servings per month. Pregnant women women who become pregnant and mothers who are breastfeeding are not advised to eat any striped bass or long-nosed gar from the lake.
Yeah, so that sounds like a problem with the lake, not bass and gar.
There's probably a problem with the soil.
Or the soil, whatever. Whatever it is, there's a problem there. or the
Yeah.
diet, whatever those fish are eating, whatever kind of bugs. Maybe it's some higher mercury bug. Because, that's the problem with a lot of these things is the mercury goes up the food chain, right?
Yeah.
Isn't mercury one of the ones that stays in your body for a long ass time, if not forever?
Yeah, so I guess since it's a metal.
Heavy metal.
Yeah.
No, that's concerning to me, but I just feel like, I mean, here's the thing. Do people in Japan die at a significantly higher rate because Japan usually has a more fish-based diet overall, right? Do they have a significantly higher death rate from mercury than an average American? I'm sure it's probably a little higher, 1% maybe, 2%. But I don't think it's so significant that I should just not eat fish except for very rarely. I could be wrong.
I looked it up, and
Should look up like fish-based diet death rate or something. We can do some research on this.
yeah, I can't. I'm not gonna do it right now, but yeah, I wonder because that would be something that I would have a concern for, considering if you were eating sashimi every day, there's probably a pretty high chance that you're gonna have some kind of, not mercury poisoning, but some kind of mercury concentration in your body.
Right, and that's the thing. If it's only a 1% increase or something, the benefits from eating fish, like how good that they are for like your meat source, like it's a lot better than red. I mean, we literally know red meat now literally causes colorectal cancer, right? Small chance, but that was that study done, right? I don't know. There might have been flaws in that study, but
I mean, red meat is pretty good for you, contrary to a lot of popular belief.
it's not that red meat is bad for you necessarily. Well, it's not. I mean, here's the thing. What they found, supposedly, that you can tell me if this has flaws or whatever, but they found that it's a very small increase, but eating more red meat and having a higher red meat diet, you're more likely to get like rectal cancer, colon cancer, whatever. It's a small amount, but it's an amount, And so they're like,
Right.
well, you have red meat, really fatty red meat. Or first you have like processed meat. You got like bologna and like whatever, you know what I mean? Store-bought deli meat. Then you have just regular red meat of certain kinds. Then you have like chicken, and then you have fish or something. Something like that. Which fish and chicken aren't really red meats for the most part, but that's kind of the tiers. And the thing with red meats, I think, was that there was different tiers as well. I think it was like beef is worse for you than pork or something. I don't remember. And it had something to do with one of the ingredients found in red meat in higher.
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, I feel like if you were deciding whether or not you wanted to quit red meat, it would be more beneficial to just keep eating red meat and just cut out everything like sugars, any kind of like, cheese puffs, all that kind of shit, like snacks like that. That stuff probably has a way higher chance of giving you some kind of rectal cancer than...
No, I agree with you. But I do think you're talking about people who are concerned enough to take red meat out of their diet. They're probably already the people that are concerned enough to have taken cheese puffs out of their diet. Like, here's the thing. If you're making this diet work, if you even consider taking red meat out of your diet, that means that you can eat chicken or fish as a replacement, and you're comfortable with that already. No, but I agree with you. If it's only 1 or 2%, to me, that isn't enough for me to take red meat out of my diet. I mean, I can't really. Right now, I need to get as much like red meats in general.
Well, red meat is actually great for, gaining weight and technically losing weight, because it has a lot of really great fats in it and oils,
right?
And like all of that stuff is
it's a benefit.
Damn good for you.
But my point is that if red meat has 1% higher chance of causing cancer if you eat it every day, and if fish is the same 1%, like, why would I put any limits on my fish eating habits? You know what I mean?
Right.
So we'll have to do more research.
I get what you're saying. Like, if you were to take that over to mercury, like, and if there was like a beneficial, like if it benefited you to like not eat fish,
and right, like you said, like I'm not super concerned about going out and cutting out chocolate because I'm scared that all the sugars are super bad, which they are bad for you. Not as bad as it is eating junk food all your life, but I mean, if I'm really that health conscious, I would pick other things to start with. But if you are a health food kind of person, I can see how you'd go up the tiers.
I have a hard time believing or not believing, but I always take things with a grain of salt when I read anything about like, food or like health or whatever, because, in the whatever, like 30s
There's
or 40s,
always, do you remember eggs? It's always like, eggs are amazing for you. Eggs are giving you heart attacks. Eggs are amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is like the sugar companies, like the sugar plantations, like lobbied to essentially to get scientists to say that trans fat was not bad for you. And people have been eating trans fat like crazy.
And here's the thing, is supposedly one of the ingredients that's in, I think maybe it was nitrates, but processed meats has more, and as you go up, the more natural it is, the less nitrates it is, but nitrates supposedly cause cancer. The thing is, like you said, it's possible that the benefits of red meat might outweigh the negative impact of nitrates. I don't remember if it's nitrates for sure, but regardless, like what I'm saying is, it doesn't necessarily mean that red meat is bad for you. It has a bad element. It might still be better for you than not eating it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you could look at like whatever article, was talking about that, and then think, well, they didn't, say anything about all of the positive benefits of, whatever, like blank here.
And that's what I like about. That was the reason that I'm talking about this. This was a pretty big study that came out. Like, people were talking about it on Reddit for a while. I still see people referencing it to it, not just like a random little one. So there was a lot of discourse on it. But you're right, until a study comes out and shows the benefits of that kind of thing, we don't know. Like you're saying, one study shows nitrates might have higher cancer, and it's found in red meat more than anything else. But, until we have more studies to piece more information together. See, that's why health science, in my opinion, is it's like a baby. Like, health science is going to grow like crazy soon. I mean, you have things like Soylent. Too. Soylent is trying to make this drink that can fulfill most of your daily caloric needs of your macros.
It's on Amazon now.
Micro. Yeah, no, I've seen it, and here's the problem I have with it. It's super expensive for what it does. But
let's see, how much is it?
If that kind of thing continues, then I wouldn't be mad eating one nice meal a day of something I enjoy, and then the rest of the day filling it with some kind of Soylent type chalky milk or whatever it is,
Soylent is $32 for 2.3 pounds. That's not horrible.
It's not
considering
horrible.
that most supplements are like $60 for whey protein. Like, to get a good whey protein, it's like $50 for like one of those big jars of it.
Well, here's the thing with something like whey protein. Like you said, it's really expensive, but whey protein is one ingredient in a shake. I mean, you're right. You could just mix it with water, but if you're just whey protein, at least for me, whey protein is not a replacement for Soylent. Whey protein is protein and a couple vitamins. Right. And what I do is I make a shake with whey protein being the protein and some other stuff. And then I throw in baby spinach for my greens, and I throw in fruit, and then I throw in peanut butter for more protein, and I throw in milk for these minerals and those minerals. And what my nutritionist said to me is that for the most part, the shake that I make actually is like really good on the macros and a lot of the micros. So it's more of a replacement. Soylent would be more of a replacement for that whole entire shake that I make with the greens, the vegetables, the milk, everything, and not just the protein powder on its own. Right. Which is what Soylent is trying to be. So I don't know if it's necessarily a fair comparison, but
I'd be interested in trying it.
I bet you it tastes either okay or bland. And the thing is, if it's bland and it gets you all your nutrients, if in 10
I'm okay
years,
with that.
Yeah, if it's in 10 years, if it's bland and it gets you all your nutrients, and you need to drink 3 a day, I would happily jump on that train. I'd still want to eat lobster or sushi at certain points, maybe a couple times a week or
if
once
I'm at
a
work
day, eat
and,
something. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, and I don't have enough time to like make something or whatever, and I can just grab one and drink it real quick, and it does the same thing.
I am ready and open for that kind of replacement for food. Problem is, I'm going to give it a while to find out if it's good for you or not. Because
Right.
wasn't it Soylent recently where people were getting sick from it, and they're like, we don't know why you're getting sick. It was like certain people seem to have allergic reactions.
I feel like everybody, I mean, for the most part, I feel like a lot, most human beings are the same, but some people just have different chemistry than others. Like,
Right.
it's harder for you to gain weight. It's harder for me to lose weight. Like, why is that? It's all genetic
and
based.
that's the thing, is that regardless of, everybody says, oh, my metabolism's slower, my metabolism's fast, or whatever, and people dispute that and use it as an excuse or fight about it all the time. And regardless of that, whether or not metabolism even plays that big of a role in how much you gain or not, when I've been trying to gain weight, and with all my stomach problems, they actually looked in my intestines, because there is problems with people. Their intestines absorb more or less than other people. And so you have all these different ways that you could gain or not be able to gain weight. Now, my intestines were fine, but like I said, there's some people out there who can't gain weight because their intestines will not absorb the nutrients that they eat. They have to eat extra. So,
Right.
like you said, you're right. Like, different people have different chemistries and work in different ways.
One thing that I do wonder about Soylent is that, do you think that there will be a huge like difference in, like, from now? Like, let's say people started drinking Soylent. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking people start drinking Soylent or whatever, and they start using it. Like, in this scenario, they start using it full time. Like, everybody's on
Right.
Soylent, and
Gotcha.
they're drinking the same thing. What does that do to your gut biome?
That's an interesting thing. And here's the thing. If you only ever drank Soylent again, I'm sure your gut biome would be fine, because it basically sticks around to digest what you eat, what your diet is, right? If you moved over to
Right.
India, you'd have a new diet, and your gut biome would kind of have problems switching over, and as you eat new food, you know what I mean? But eventually it would
You would
convert.
have diarrhea like every day.
So you might be right on the one thing I didn't think about, is that if you have Soylent every day and you go out to eat on Friday and Saturday, it might be harder to process those foods when your body's so used to. Because that's the thing,
Right.
it's a
Well,
liquid.
I've noticed that even now, like, since I've been, prepping my meals and everything, if I eat like pizza on the weekend or go get Whataburger or whatever, I'm gonna kind of regret it.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to that point yet, luckily, but I'm hoping that I can still gain some weight before I start having these negative reactions with grease. Or the one that's always been a funny joke to me is everyone's like, oh, I've been on the toilet all night. Why? Taco Bell. It's like, I've literally never had an indigestion problem with Taco Bell before.
I can't say the same. I have definitely eaten Taco Bell, and
I wonder what it is,
like,
because
it's not like I eat it and immediately I'm like, oh, I feel horrible. It's like I eat it, and then I'm like, later that day or whatever, I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like I gotta, like, a little diarrhea in there. But then if you just let it solidify overnight, you're good to go, man.
Yeah,
I've
so
eaten
you're
a lot of
making it
Taco
seem like
Bell.
it's
I know
not
what
as
I'm
bad
talking
as the
about.
joke. But I mean, that's the funny thing to me, is I've had IBS in the past. I probably still have it, but I've had indigestion problems sometimes. But Taco Bell has never even seemed to make it worse or better. Like, it's completely neutral. And I've
That's
never
so
even noticed a
interesting.
certain food that does make it better or worse. Like Taco Bell, it's like, do you want Taco Bell today? It's like, okay. And then it's like the next day I'm like, I guess I had Taco Bell. Nothing happened.
Maybe your stomach has like a genetic predisposition.
To like processed meats.
Deposition.
Predisposition. Deposition. I think you meant disposition.
Disposition. I don't know. I was gonna say maybe your stomach is used to Taco Bell for some reason, and everything else.
My
is
great
like, nah.
great grandfather ate Taco Bell as his meal as he came over here from Norway, I think. And
Dude, have you ever seen that guy that just eats pizza?
literally, you're not talking about Review Bra, are you?
No. So this is I love Review Bra though. No, this was a guy that a man just eats pizza.
Is he
And
fat?
it's like only cheese pizza. Yeah. It was on Munchies. I'll link it to you. You can put it into the description if you want. I don't care.
Will do.
But it's this guy. It says this guy survived on pizza for 25 years. Somebody put 25 years eating pizza but can't make his own handmade pizza and has to buy frozen pizza.
You said he's fat. Am I missing him?
He's not fat though.
That's what I'm saying. I asked if he's fat, and I thought you said yes.
They they had like
Is he literally eating only cheese pizza? How's he getting his I'm not gonna watch this whole thing. I have it on mute. I'll watch it later. How is he not dead?
I don't know.
There's no way he's getting all of his macros. Is he taking vitamins?
I'm assuming he has to have taken vitamins, but
Where's the protein coming from? You said he must eat meat pizzas. There's no way.
I don't know if it's this one or if it's another one, but they were showing him like a nice, like a gorgeous pizza with like spinach and stuff on it and like chicken and all that. And he's like, no, that's not pizza.
So he just eats the nasty
He just eats
pizza.
cheese pizzas.
I can get down with some like crazier, more nutritious pizza, and that's hard to say. I mean, you can make a pizza in a nutritious way as long as you don't do with fats. I mean, you can think about
You can do it with cauliflower. You can
yeah,
make
and
the
even
crust
if you
out of cauliflower.
even if you do the dough, if you don't make it like super buttery and super greasy, and you make it kind of thin, and then you go light on the tomato sauce, and you go light on the cheese, and then you do like spinach and tomatoes and whatever, you can
Feta
have a
cheese.
fairly healthy. I do love feta cheese on my pizzas.
Yeah, man. There's some. I mean, people that just eat like pepperoni and cheese and stuff, I feel bad for them because I like them. I like all pizza. I don't discriminate against any pizza.
Right.
Let that be known, okay?
I agree.
I do not discriminate against any pizza.
I haven't had pizza in a long ass time. I'm gonna order some one of these days. I'm just gonna get two.
I had
Does
pizza-
Domino's still have that 2 medium, 2 topping pizzas for $6 each? I'm probably gonna get myself 2.
Yeah. You know how I know that?
Because you just got one.
Because I got one this weekend.
I used to have that like every weekend, man. So good.
My diet basically is not a diet. I'm like
Are you just
80% of the
constricting
time
your
I try to eat
calories?
healthy. 20% of the time I just eat whatever, and sometimes that happens to be Domino's because they're quick.
I mean, there's 2 ways to diet, and you can mix and match. But it's either eat healthy like salads and eat a lot like you're used to, or eat like you used to, really unhealthy foods, but eat smaller amounts. Those are the only real 2 good ways to diet.
Well, I mean, I eat healthy stuff. Like I eat like chicken and broccoli and stuff for lunch, but like on the weekends, I'm like, I don't want to cook on the weekends, so I'll just do whatever on the weekends.
Well, and that's fine. And what I was saying is you can mix and match. You can do healthy food during the week and unhealthy food on the weekend. But like it sounds like you're saying is you eat whatever portion you want of unhealthy food on the weekend. You just only do it on the weekend anyway. So
yeah. I
which is
pretty much
also
only eat
fine,
badly on the
but
weekend.
it'll go faster if you don't give yourself cheat weekends.
Well, I mean, I don't consider them cheat weekends because I don't like. I'll still eat healthy on the weekends. Like I just basically let
I get
myself
what you're
eat a
saying.
couple of meals.
I've
a
never
week.
had to diet. I never probably will have to diet. I could be wrong, but no, I get what you're saying. Like I think if I had to diet, I would do what you did because I wouldn't want to just give up pizza and whatever for months until I was the weight I want to be. I'd still want to have pizza sometimes.
I don't really consider it necessarily a diet because like it's more of just me actually like making my
A lifestyle
before,
change.
I wasn't making food when I went to work. Like I wasn't bringing any lunch with me, and I was just eating out all the time. And then I was like, wait, I'm gonna save a lot of money if I just make my own food. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be like the healthiest thing
It's
ever.
a lifestyle change.
I still make pasta. I still eat carbs. I still do all that stuff. I don't do it so much.
Yeah, it's
like I
a
was.
lifestyle
I'm not
change.
gorging myself.
And I would still say it's technically a diet, but I get what you're saying is you're not specifically on a diet.
I don't follow any strict
It's just
rules.
happening.
Yeah, I just
That's
kind
fine.
of go with the flow, and like I see something, I'm like, hey, that looks like it could be good for me.
And that's how I would diet
cook
too, is do what sounds good and just make sure that you're being, not crazy with. You can't just say, "Oh, that sounds good. I'm going to have pizza every night."
Right.
There's got to be a little bit of mental.
And at the same time, if I were to eat like healthy stuff all the time, it would drive me absolutely up the wall.
Oh,
so
I
like I
agree.
have to fit a burger in there a week, like.
Right.
And I mean that's pretty much what it is. Like I'll eat pretty good, and then I'll have like a burger and fries on Friday or something, and then maybe on Sunday I'll go to my parents' house and they have pizza, and I'm like, oh, pizza.
Speaking of food, I think we should probably go get some food because we've been running
I'm
this
gonna do that.
podcast
Yeah, I have
for
to go
an
work out still, and it's
insanely long
midnight.
time. I don't know how we ran this podcast so long, but if you guys enjoyed it, please, I mean, you don't have to, but leave a like, comment, whatever. Important is if you have any suggestions for us, which I think we said at the beginning of the podcast, unless it was scrapped because we had a flub at the beginning. Give us topics that you want us to cover that you find interesting. Not guaranteed we'll cover it, but if you give us a topic that's in depth and cool that we enjoy, we'll probably talk about it on the podcast because we're always looking for myths, superstitions, crimes, scary stories, urban legends, anything that's crazy like that. We love to talk about it.
If you have something that's just you've just
like
been
one of those
researching like
infomercials
crazy,
that's like,
and you think it's something that we're gonna love, send it to us.
Yeah, sound like you're gonna go into those. If you have 50 cents a day to spare, you can save starving dogs in Tahiti or something.
Save those dogs.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you guys like it, leave a like. We're going to do this podcast once a week. I'm not entirely sure what day we're going to start releasing these, but be prepared for the next day of the week that this podcast lands on. There will be another podcast. So,
yeah, at some point in some week, at some time.
It'll be a
weekday,
and I'm thinking it's going to go Tuesday or Thursday. Because I don't want to go on like the common Monday, Wednesday, Friday days, but we'll see what we agree on, so. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. We will be back next week.
Subscribe,
comment,
hit me up. You can put my
5-star.
email up in there again. Send me emails. Just love
Send
me.
us a medal, a number 1 medal. Vote for us for the Streamy Award that just ended.
Yeah, vote for the Deep Lore podcast on the Streamy Award.
What if we like campaigned for like the Streamy and somehow we won from like some kind of troll? And someone's like,
we should
let's
do
vote
that.
for these guys. That'd be hilarious.
Before we even release our podcast, we should do that.
Run for the Streamies.
Yeah.
Debut our first podcast at the Streamies. Everyone's sitting there
At
for
the
an hour,
Streamies.
Like, sucks.
Well, Alex,
Anyways, guys,
you've got a
thanks for
gorgeous room
watching.
behind you.
Thank you.
I hope you
I
have
did
an
this
excellent
myself.
meal tonight. And hey, everybody, why don't you go make a grilled cheese? Okay, just go do that, and you can listen to one of our older podcasts.
All right, let's not push this any further. Thank you guys for watching. We will be back next week. Peace.
Peace.
Oh, I like that. We both did it.